In my past life, I used my status as a wealthy heiress to force Pei Yushin into becoming my husband through marriage. After marriage, we tormented each other, resulting in one death and one injury reborn back to Pei Yushin's college days. This time, I made a completely different decision. The day I died, a heavy snow fell over Beijing. Actually, I wasn't quite dead yet. I was lying in the ICU when the heart monitor let out its final, drawn-out tone. I heard it, but my body had already become as light as a feather. My name is Xinjiao. I'm 24, a wealthy heiress, and Pei Yushin's wife. Calling me his wife isn't quite right. It's more accurate to say I'm the enemy who forced him into a matrilocal marriage. Back then, the Xin family was at the peak of its power. My father took a liking to Pei Yushin's brilliant mind and his handsome face. He had just graduated from Tsinghua University. He was poor, an orphan, and had to borrow money even for his apartment deposit. My dad said, marrying into the Xin family, you'll never have to worry for the rest of your life. Pei Yushin refused 3 times. I went to find him myself. I remember that day he was wearing a faded shirt, standing on the bridge outside the west gate of Tsinghua University, holding a worn-out copy of Introduction to Algorithms. I drove the Porsche my dad bought me, parked under the bridge, and rolled down the window to look up at him. Pei Yushin, marry me, and I'll give you freedom. He didn't look at me, staring at the distant traffic instead. Miss Shin, freedom isn't something you can buy with money. Then what do you use to buy it? I laughed. You can't even afford to think about tomorrow's meal. He finally looked down at me. That gaze, I will never forget it in my life. Not anger, not humiliation, but a calm, almost pitying scrutiny. After going a few times, he finally said, okay, and so we got married. On the first day of our marriage, he moved his luggage into the guest room of the Xin family villa. My dad frowned, and I smiled, saying he was used to living alone. The first month of our marriage, we were like 2 strangers passing each other in the same house. He left early and returned late. Starting a business in artificial intelligence, I continued my life as a socialite, buying bags, having afternoon tea, and posting on social media. I thought this would be fine. We'd keep the peace and go our separate ways, but I overestimated myself. I started to care about him. I cared that he didn't come home until 3 a.m., that he never looked at me, that every word he said to me was as polite as if I were a client. I deliberately brought my male best friend home for dinner, intentionally took a flirtatious call right in front of him, and on purpose threw his things out of the guest room to force him to move into the master bedroom. He stood at the doorway of the master bedroom, looking at the books and computer that had been moved in, and remained silent for a long time. Xinjiao, what is it you actually want? I want you to be my husband. I leaned against the headboard, smiling boldly, not just in name only. He glanced at me, said nothing, and turned to leave. He didn't come home that night, nor did he return the next day. On the 3rd day, his assistant delivered the signed divorce papers. I tore up the agreement. Then I did something even crazier. I went and made a scene at his company. In front of all the employees, I said Pei Yushin only started his company with his wife's family's money, and now that he's successful, he wants to ditch her. Investors pulled their funding overnight, 2 partners bailed, and his company went from being valued at 300 million to drowning in debt in a single day. He stood in the empty office, looking at the shattered trophies scattered across the floor, then turned around. This time, an expression finally crossed his face. It was hatred. Xinjiao. His voice was soft, as if afraid of disturbing something. Do you think it's fun to destroy a person? I froze. I wanted to say no. I just wanted you to see me, but what came out of my mouth was, you deserved it. 3 months later, Pei Yushin sold the company to a rival and cleared all the debts. He came to me again with the divorce papers, but this time, I didn't tear them up. I signed them. That night after signing, I drove onto the 5th Ring Road and floored the gas pedal. I wasn't sure if I wanted to kill myself or just feel what it was like to lose control. A big truck made the decision for me. I was thrown out of the car and landed on the ground, blood streaming from my forehead and blurring my vision. Through my hazy vision, I saw a figure rushing towards me. It was Pei Yushin. He didn't know why he was there. He was kneeling on the ground, his hands pressed against the wound on my neck, blood welling up between his fingers. His face was covered in my blood, his expression one of pure terror I had never seen before. Xinjiao, hold on. His voice trembled. Hold on, please, I'm begging you. I want to laugh. Look, he finally knows how to ask me for help, but I can't laugh. By the time the ambulance arrived, I couldn't speak. In the hospital ICU, I only had time to say 3 words. I'm sorry. The heart monitor alarm went off. I was 24 years old when I died. Then I opened my eyes. The ceiling was white, lit by the hum of an old fluorescent tube. The air smelled of chalk dust and disinfectant. I was lying on a narrow metal-framed bed, covered by a quilt that had been washed stiff. My phone vibrated on the pillow beside me. I picked it up. The date on the screen read, September 1st, 2017. 6 years ago. I jolted upright, banging my head against the bunk bed above. There were 3 other girls in the dorm, all packing their things, and no one noticed me. My phone vibrated again. It was a text from the dorm advisor, Shinjaoi. Your student loan has been approved. Come to the office building to sign on Monday. Student loan. I remember now, before the age of 18, the Shin family had not yet risen to prominence. Back then, my dad was still working at construction sites, and my mom was operating sewing machines at a garment factory. My first year of college was funded by student loans. This is Tsinghua University. I'm a freshman and Peiyushin. I trembled as I flipped through my phone contacts. His name wasn't there. We hadn't met yet. No, that's not right. He's also at Tsinghua, a junior, in the computer science department. We'll meet at an alumni gathering 3 months from now. My dad will notice him there and go to great lengths to dig into his background. And then it all starts over. I close my eyes, my heart racing wildly in my chest. I'm alive. I returned to before all the mistakes happened too. I spent the entire night processing this. It's not a dream, not an illusion. I could feel the metal bed frame digging into my back, smell the instant noodles my roommate was making, and hear the slap of slippers as someone shuffled down the hallway. It was all unbearably, undeniably real. Just before dawn, I made a decision. In this life, I will stay away from Peiyushin. Don't force him, don't ruin him, don't marry him. He deserves a complete and good life of his own. He can become anyone he wants to be, a scientist, an entrepreneur, or just an ordinary but free person. I don't need to be part of this beauty. I shouldn't even be a part of his story. Freshman year is incredibly busy. I'm majoring in finance, and my schedule is packed with classes. The Shin family didn't have much money at this time, and I only had 800 yuan for my monthly living expenses, so I had to budget carefully. I applied for a work-study position at the library, earning 15 yuan per hour, and I went 3 times a week. I adapted well to this lifestyle. In fact, I felt this was how Shinjaoi should be, not the crazy woman who drove a Porsche and forced people to marry, but just an ordinary college student, hesitating over whether to add a chicken leg to her meal at the cafeteria. One afternoon in October, I was organizing bookshelves on the 4th floor of the library. This area is rarely visited, filled with outdated academic journals. I climbed up the small ladder and stuffed a stack of economic research into the top shelf. I slipped, the magazines scattered all over the floor. I cursed under my breath, climbed down the ladder to pick them up. As I bent down, I saw a hand already picking up the farthest one for me. Long fingers, distinct knuckles, and calluses on the fingertips. I looked up. Peiyushin stood in front of me. He was thinner and more youthful than he would be 6 years later, wearing a gray hoodie with a loose thread hanging from the back of the hood. His hair was a bit long, covering half his forehead, but his eyes remained the same, dark and deep, like an unfathomable well. I froze in place. Yours, he said, handing the magazine over. I took it, but when my fingers brushed against his, I flinched back as if shocked. The magazine fell again. He glanced at me, bent down to pick it up, and this time placed it directly on the nearby book cart. Be careful, he said. His voice was younger than it would be 6 years later, but the steady, unhurried tone was exactly the same. I opened my mouth to say thank you, but my throat felt like it was blocked. All I could think was, go, hurry, stay away from him. Thank you. I lowered my head, my voice muffled. Then I turned around and quickly pushed the book cart down the corridor. I didn't dare to look back. I was afraid that if I looked at him, I would remember the image of him kneeling on the 5th ring road in my previous life, his hands covered in my blood. I'm afraid I might cry. I'm afraid I might do the same thing as in my previous life. Like a moth to a flame, I walked to the end of the corridor, turned into the bathroom, closed the door, and slid down the wall to sit on the floor. My heart feels like it's being squeezed, not because of love, but because of guilt. In my previous life, the person I ruined is now just a few dozen meters away, quietly reading an unknown book behind the bookshelf. He knows nothing about the future. He doesn't know that a crazy woman will come looking for him in a Porsche 4 years from now, that his company will be destroyed, or that his name will appear on a divorce agreement. He doesn't even know I exist. This is good. I wiped my eyes, stood up, and adjusted my expression in the mirror. The person in the mirror was 18, barefaced, with a high ponytail, and a few pimples on her cheeks. This is a brand new beginning, I told myself. In the following days, I deliberately avoided all the places where Peiyushin might appear. I didn't go to the computer science building. I avoided the cafeteria he frequented, and even switched my library shifts to nighttime. He comes during the day, I come at night, avoiding each other. I thought this would be enough, but one night in November, I was working the closing shift at The library. As I was shelving the last cart of books, I turned a corner and bumped right into someone. It was him again. He was sitting in a corner by the window, a laptop open in front of him. The screen was filled with lines of dense code. Most of the library's lights were already off, leaving only the one directly above him still glowing. He was wearing headphones and didn't notice me approaching at all. I wanted to turn and walk away, but my feet were rooted to the spot. The light fell on his profile, highlighting its clean, sharp lines. He was frowning, chewing on the cap of a pen, clearly stuck on some problem. After a moment, he released the pen cap, typed a few lines on the keyboard, then deleted them all. I've seen this scene countless times in my past life. I would push open the door to his study late at night, time and again, and see his back like this. Then I'd deliberately turn off the light and say it was time for bed. He would stand up in silence and continue his work in the guest room. I used to think he was incapable of love. Now I understand. He just didn't love me. But when he was doing what he loved, he was radiant, and I was the one who snuffed out that light. I quietly took 2 steps back, turned, and walked away. As I reached the stairwell, I heard the sound of a chair scraping behind me. He had come out. Wait a second. I stopped but didn't turn around. Do you? He hesitated. Often work this shift? No, I said, just sometimes. Oh, he paused. I often come around this time. It's quiet here. Silence. I tightened my grip on the book cart's handle, my nails digging into my palms. I'm off, I said, turning to head downstairs. Hey, classmate, he called out from behind me. I stopped. What's your name? I closed my eyes. In my past life, he never once asked for my name. The first time we met, it was my father who introduced me. This is my daughter, Shinjaoi, I said. Then I left. There was no looking back that night. Back in the dorm, I lay in bed staring at the bunk above me until dawn. I kept telling myself, in this life, you are nothing but a stranger to him. You merely passed by each other in the library, that was all. He doesn't know you, and you don't know him. Your lives will never intersect. But fate doesn't seem to be letting me off the hook. The alumni meet in December in my past life. It was at this very alumni gathering where my father brought me before Pei-Yushin, smiling as he said, Young Pei, I've long heard of your esteemed reputation. In this life, my father hasn't yet made his fortune and won't be attending Tsinghua's alumni event, but as a student volunteer, I'm required to be there to help with registration. I stood at the check-in desk, wearing a borrowed black suit, holding a pen, head bowed, mechanically repeating, hello, please sign in. Then a hand reached over and took the sign-in sheet from in front of me. Let me sign for you. I looked up. Pei-Yushin stood in front of me. Today, he wore a white shirt with a dark blue sweater over it. Looking much more formal than usual, he signed his name, his handwriting beautiful, each stroke neat and precise. After signing, he pushed the form back to me and glanced at me. Shinjaoi, he called my name, as if confirming something. You're here for the alumni reunion too. I'm a volunteer. He gave a nod, said nothing more, and turned to enter the venue. I breathed a sigh of relief, but my heart was still pounding. Halfway through the alumni event, I was assigned to move supplies. Backstage, while carrying 2 cases of bottled water back, I ran into him again in the hallway. He was leaning against the wall, holding a glass of untouched red wine, with a somewhat vacant expression. You're not going in? I asked. He glanced at me, his mouth twitching slightly, as if smiling but not quite. I'm not very comfortable in such settings. I understand. In his previous life, he was like this, disliking social gatherings and socializing. I was the one who forced him to attend all those banquets, thrusting him into the spotlight for everyone to scrutinize. Pei-Yushin, the Shin family's live-in son-in-law. Then why did you come? I asked. He was silent for a moment before saying, my advisor told me to, said it would be a good chance to meet people, beneficial for the future. You don't like it? I don't like it, he admitted frankly. I stood there holding the case of bottled water, at a loss for words. In my past life, I never once asked him if he liked it. All I cared about was whether he would accompany me, whether he would embarrass me in front of my friends, and whether he would show even the slightest bit of care for me in public. The tape on the box came undone, he suddenly said. I looked down and saw that the tape on the bottom box had indeed come loose, and the bottles of water were starting to slide out. I quickly crouched down to hold it, but the box tilted, and the water bottles rolled all over the floor. Don't move. He also crouched down, one hand holding the box, the other picking up the water bottles that had rolled away one by one. We crouched in the hallway, facing each other, picking up empty water bottles. My fingers touched a bottle, and his fingers touched it too, overlapping. I jerked my hand back as it burned. He glanced at me, said nothing, and picked up the bottle, placing it in the box. He had picked up all the bottles. Standing up, he stacked the crates and dusted off his hands. Shinjaoi, he said, have you been avoiding me? My heart skipped a beat. What? You changed the library schedule 3 times. His tone was calm, as if stating a fact. I noticed that you used to work in the afternoon, but then it was all changed to evening. And every time you see me, you walk away. I was stunned. Did he notice? I opened my mouth, my mind racing to find a reasonable excuse. I'm not avoiding you. My class schedule changed. He looked at me, that gaze again. Calm, deep, as if seeing through something. Is that so? He said, not a question, a statement. He didn't believe it at all. The corridor was quiet, the distant clinking of glasses and chatter from the banquet hall faintly audible. I stood before him, holding a case of bottled water, my fingers trembling. Pei-Yushin, I said, you're overthinking it. We're not even close. He was silent for a few seconds. Then he laughed, a faint smile, like a thin layer of frost on a winter window. Vanished in an instant. You're right, he said, we're not close. He turned and left. I stood there, watching his back as he walked into the venue. White shirt, dark blue sweater, broad shoulders, and a straight back. I suddenly remembered the day we got married in our previous life. He stood at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau, dressed in a suit, his back just as straight. I linked arms with him for a photo, smiling brightly. He didn't smile, but he didn't push me away either. Back then, I thought he was just enduring. Now I realize he might not have known how to smile at me. I stood in the corridor holding a box of mineral water for a long time, until a volunteer came running to find me, saying they needed help up ahead, and I snapped back to reality. That night back in the dorm, I wrote a line in my diary, December 10th, 2017, the alumni reunion. He saw me again, but it's fine, it doesn't matter. I drew a line under the words, it doesn't matter. Then I closed the notebook and turned off the light. 3. I didn't go home for the winter break of my freshman year. My family was still in our hometown county in Hebei at the time. My dad had an accident on the construction site, broke his leg, and was laid up for 3 months. My mom was crying on the phone, saying the medical bills were piling up and asking me to figure something out. I took on 3 part-time jobs. I sold clothes at a mall during the day, made boba tea at a shop in the evenings, and pulled the graveyard shift at a convenience store. I could sleep standing up, getting only 4 hours of sleep a day, but I endured it because I knew these 2 years were the toughest for the Shin family. After my dad's leg healed, he would partner with someone to start a building materials business, eventually expanding all the way to Beijing, amassing a fortune of billions. In my previous life, I enjoyed all of this, but this time around, I don't plan to. However, at the very least, I want to help them get through this difficult period. February in Beijing is as cold as a freezer. At 3 in the morning, I was the only clerk in the convenience store, and there was a homeless man sleeping in the corner. I was leaning on the cashier counter, calculating the accounts. This month I saved 4,300, plus what I had saved before, enough to pay for the next semester's tuition. The doorbell rang. Welcome. I reflexively looked up. Pei-Yushin stood at the door. He was wearing a black down jacket, the hood pulled low, his nose and ears red from the cold. He carried a laptop bag in his hand, his face showing clear signs of fatigue. He saw me and was momentarily stunned. What are you doing here? We both said at the same time. Then there was silence. I'm working, I said first. I'm here for some water. He walked over to the cooler and took out a bottle of mineral water. You're drinking ice-cold water in the dead of winter. I frowned. He glanced at me, said nothing, put the mineral water back, and swapped it for a bottle at room temperature. He walked up to the counter, placed the water on it, and took another look at the ledger in front of me. How many jobs do you work? He asked. 3, I said. How many hours do you sleep a day? Enough. He looked at me, his brows slowly furrowing. I was familiar with that expression. He was calculating something. In his previous life, this was the expression he had when working on algorithms, listing all the variables and seeking the optimal solution. Shinjawi, he said, are you short of money? No, you're lying. I looked up and met his eyes. Very serious, very straightforward, with no probing. It's none of your business, I said. He fell silent for a moment, then took out his phone from his pocket and opened the QR code. Add me on WeChat. Why? I have a part-time job that needs someone, he said. Data annotation. I have some image recognition data that needs manual labeling. It pays by the hour, 50 per hour. You can do it in your dorm. No need to go out. I was stunned. You don't get the wrong idea, he said flatly. It's not sympathy. I really need help. There's too much data, and I can't label it all by myself. I knew he was lying. In his previous life, working in AI, he always outsourced data labeling to professional firms. Hiring a freshman finance major for such work was unthinkable. He wasn't short-staffed. He just couldn't bear the sight of a girl working the night shift at a convenience store at 3 a.m. But I don't want to accept it. I can't accept this. Every act of kindness from him feels like a knife to me. Because I owe him too much. No need, I said. I'm not short of money. You are. He pushed his phone right in front of me. Scan, Pei Yushin, Xinjiaoyi. He cut me off, his voice suddenly dropping low. You're a woman, alone in a convenience store at 3 in the morning. What if something happened to you? His words pierced me like a needle, striking right at my most vulnerable spot in my past life. He had never spoken to me like this. Never. I looked down and saw my hands trembling. Add me on WeChat, and I'll send you the materials. His tone returned to its usual calm, as if discussing something ordinary. Do it if you want, or delete it if you don't. It's up to you. I remained silent for a long time. In the end, I still took out my phone and scanned his QR code. He instantly accepted my friend request. I'll send you the documents later. He put the bottled water in his pocket, turned around, and walked out. At the door, he paused, looked back at me, and then left. Get some rest early. The door closed, a cold draft seeped in through the crack, and I shivered. I looked down at his profile picture on my phone screen, a solid black image, no bio, no posts for the nickname. I typed 3 characters, Pei Yushin, then I deleted the character Pei, leaving only Yushin, then I deleted that too, only left with a Pei. I locked the screen, placed my phone on the counter, leaned on the cash register, and closed my eyes. Xinjiaoyi, snap out of it. You can't get close to him. You can't. The phone on the counter vibrated. I picked it up to check. It was a message from him. The instructions for data annotation. Take a look first. No rush. Reply to me tomorrow. There was another one below it. Don't spend the night in the convenience store. It's not safe. I stared at those 2 messages for a long time. Then I flipped my phone over, screen down, and set it on the counter for, I didn't take that part-time job. The next day, I replied, saying I was too busy with my studies. He replied with a simple okay and didn't say anything more. But after that day, I realized something had changed. He started appearing in my life, not in an intentional way, not pursuing, not flirting, not any kind of approach I had imagined. He was like a satellite, appearing faintly and distantly at the edge of my orbit. In the library, he would sit at the far end of the section I frequented. In the cafeteria, he would walk past me with his tray when I wasn't paying attention. Sometimes, when we crossed paths, he would give a slight nod and continue on his way. He never initiated conversation, he never came close. That kind of faint, almost negligible presence. But I know he's there. I always knew. One afternoon in March, I was sitting on the lawn in front of the teaching building, reading a book. The sun was warm, the breeze gentle. On the lawn, small groups of students were chatting, playing guitar, and flying kites. I placed my book over my face and lay down to soak up the sun. In that hazy state between sleep and wakefulness, I heard someone speaking. Hey, excuse me. I moved the book aside and squinted. A guy stood in front of me, holding a club recruitment flyer, grinning. Hey, interested in joining the photography club? We've got. She's not joining. The voice came from behind me. I turned my head. Pei Yushin was sitting 2 meters behind me, leaning against a tree, with a laptop in front of him. He didn't even look up, his fingers still tapping on the keyboard. The guy paused for a moment. Are you her boyfriend? No, I said. No, Pei Yushin said at the same time. We exchanged glances. He looked away first. How do you know she doesn't want to? The boy asked Pei Yushin. She doesn't like taking photos, Pei Yushin said. I froze again. How did he know? In my past life, my favorite thing was taking photos. I had a whole walk-in closet full of designer bags and dresses. Every time I went out, I'd take dozens of photos to post on social media. But it wasn't because I enjoyed having my picture taken, it was because I needed others to see that I was doing well in this life. I have no designer bags, no dresses, not even a decent lipstick. I really don't like having my picture taken. It's not that I dislike it, I just don't need to anymore. But how did he know? After the boy left, I sat up and looked at Pei Yushin. How did you know I don't like taking photos? He stopped typing and thought for a moment. Just a guess, you don't have any selfies on your social feed, he said. Not a single one. I fell silent. He went through my posts. When did he do that, and why? Pei Yushin, I said. Why are you always showing up next to me? He looked up at me. Sunlight filtered through the leaves, casting dappled shadows across his face. In the shade, his eyes looked especially deep, like pools of unfathomable water. Did I? He said. I hadn't noticed. That line again. In my past life, I asked him countless times, why are you always avoiding me? His reply was always, am I? I hadn't noticed. Now I'm asking, why are you always showing up next to me? And he's still saying, do I? I hadn't noticed. What am I, really? In his heart, no, I can't think like that. I stood up, brushed the grass off my skirt, and picked up the book. I'm leaving, Shinjaoi. I stopped. Is something on your mind? He asked. No, you look. He paused, choosing his words carefully, not like a freshman. What do you mean? Freshmen don't have eyes like yours. I didn't say anything. Your eyes, he said, they look like they've seen a lot. I tightened my grip on the book in my hands. He could tell. How could he tell? You're overthinking it, I said, my voice as steady as I could make it. I'm just an ordinary student. He didn't argue, nor did he press further. He just nodded and went back to looking at his computer. I turned and walked away. After walking a long way, I looked back. He still sat beneath that tree, the sunlight stretching his shadow long. The wind rustled the leaves, and he raised his hand to hold down the scattered documents. The scene was so quiet that I almost thought this was the best distance between us. Not too close, not too far, each at peace. It was a rainy night in April, a real downpour. I was on duty at the library until 9, and when I left, I realized I hadn't brought an umbrella. The rain was coming down in sheets. It was a 15-minute walk from the library to the dorm, and if I ran, I'd be soaked to the bone. I stood under the library porch, hesitating whether to wait for the rain to subside before leaving. An umbrella was handed to me from behind. I turned around. Pei-Yushin stood behind me, holding a black long-handled umbrella. He was wearing a white t-shirt today, which was dampened by the mist on his shoulders. Here you go, he said. What about you? I live nearby. I know where he lives. In his previous life, during his senior year, he lived in an off-campus rental. It cost $800 a month, had no air conditioning, and he relied on a single space heater to get through the winters. It'll take you at least 20 minutes to walk back from off-campus, I said. So what? You'll catch a cold. He glanced at me, the corner of his mouth twitching. This time I saw it clearly. It was a real smile, faint, but definitely a smile. You're concerned about me? He asked. My face flushed hot all at once. No, I averted my gaze. I just thought, take it. He thrust the umbrella into my hand, turned, and walked into the rain. Pei-Yushin, I called after him. He didn't look back, just gave a wave of his hand. His steps were quick, and in a few strides, he vanished into the curtain of rain. Standing under the porch with the umbrella, I listened to the rain drumming against the fabric, a steady, pit-a-pat rhythm. The warmth of his hand still lingered on the umbrella handle. I lowered my head, pressing my face against the umbrella's handle. I mustn't get close to him. I mustn't. But the warmth of his hand on the umbrella handle, so comforting. 5. During my freshman summer, I didn't go home. My dad's leg got better, and he started a building materials business with partners. My mom's tone on the phone improved a lot, saying I didn't need to worry about home and should focus on my studies. But I still took on 3 jobs, not for the money, just to keep myself busy enough that I wouldn't have time to think about him. The campus was empty during the summer. Only half the dining halls were open, and the library was much less crowded. I would leave early and return late every day, pushing myself to the point of exhaustion so I could fall asleep as soon as my head hit the pillow. Sometimes, I'd wake up in the middle of the night to find my phone screen glowing. It was a message from him, nothing particularly special. Sometimes it was an article he thought was well written, sometimes an instrumental piece of music, sometimes just a simple get some sleep. I never replied, but he never stopped. One late August night, I walked back to school after closing the milk tea shop. As I passed a narrow alley, I heard a dog barking inside. I wasn't afraid of dogs, but the sound grew closer, and then a big black dog came charging out of the alley, barking furiously at me. I took 2 steps back, slipped, and fell to the ground. The black dog didn't lunge at me, just stood there barking, but I fell hard, scraping my palm and bloodying my knee. I sat by the roadside, watching the blood slowly seep from my knee, and suddenly felt utterly exhausted. It's not physical exhaustion, it's the kind of mental burden, carrying all the guilt, regret, and restraint from my past life, pressing down on me so heavily that I can barely breathe. I didn't want to cry, but the tears just fell on their own. The phone rang. It was him. I didn't pick up. It rang for a long time, then stopped, and then it rang again. I picked up. Where are you? His voice was urgent, not as calm as usual. Outside. Are you crying? I sniffled. No. Shinjaoi, where are you? I could hear the tremor in his voice. In my past life, he only had that same tremor in his voice on the night of my car accident. I'm fine, I said. Where are you? He practically shouted. I was stunned. There was a 2-second silence on the other end of the line. He took a deep breath and lowered his voice. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have yelled at you. Tell me where you are. I'm on the road outside the east gate. Don't move. I'm coming right now. The call ended. 15 minutes later, a shared bike skidded to a stop in front of me. He was sweating profusely, with a large wet patch on the back of his t-shirt. He jumped off the bike, and upon seeing the blood on my knee, his face changed instantly. He crouched down, pulled out a tissue from his pocket, and gently pressed it against my knee. How did you fall? There was a dog. What kind of dog? Did it bite you? No, I just got a fright and fell. He carefully examined my knees and palms, and only let out a sigh of relief after confirming nothing was seriously wrong. Then he looked up at me. The streetlight shone on his face, and I saw his eyes were red. Do you know? His voice was hoarse. How worried I am when you don't reply. I opened my mouth, but no words came out. You never reply to my messages, he said. Not a single one. I know you might not want to talk to me, but I still send them. Because I'm afraid something might happen to you out there alone, afraid you might still be at the convenience store at 3 in the morning, afraid that, he paused and lowered his head, I don't want you to end up like me, carrying the weight of the world alone. A breeze drifted through the alley, carrying the warmth of summer and the smoky scent of a distant barbecue stall. I was sitting by the roadside, and he was crouched in front of me, less than half a meter between us. It suddenly made me wonder, in our past life, what was the closest we ever were, living under the same roof, yet separated by a door, sharing the same table, yet divided by a silence. And now, he crouched before me, pressing a tissue to my wound, his hands trembling. Payushin, I said, why are you being so kind to me? He didn't answer. We're not close, I said, my voice beginning to tremble. Do you know me? Do you know what kind of person I am? I don't know, he cut me off, but I want to. You shouldn't. Why? Because I would ruin you. Because I already ruined you once in a past life. Because what I owe you, I could never repay in this lifetime. The words were stuck in my throat, impossible to utter. Shinjawi, he stood up, looking down at me. Do you think that you don't deserve kindness from others? The words struck like a knife, piercing straight to my core. My whole body was trembling. He crouched down and looked me in the eye. I don't know what you've been through, he said, but you don't have to carry it alone. You don't have to tell me. But don't do it alone. You don't understand. I shook my head. You don't know what I've done. Then let me understand. I looked into his eyes, so earnest, so clear, without a trace of impurity in this life. He hadn't yet been ruined by the Shin family, by marriage, or by me. He was still the whole, pure, radiant Payushin. I couldn't drag him into my mire. Payushin, I said, stay away from me. His expression didn't change. He just looked at me, for a long time. Okay, he said. He stood up, left the tissue in my hand, and turned toward the shared bike. Before riding off, he glanced back at me. But I'll still send you messages, he said. You don't have to reply. Then he rode away. I sat by the roadside, clutching the blood-stained tissue in my hand, tears falling onto my wrist. Shinjawi, you can't do that to him again. 6 After the start of sophomore year, he really stopped seeking me out. In the library, he moved to a different spot. We never ran into each other in the cafeteria again. If we happened to cross paths, he would just give a slight nod before we passed each other by, but he was still sending messages. The frequency went from daily to weekly. The content was still an article, a song, or a simple take care. I still haven't gone back. In September, I received the national scholarship, 8,000 yuan, enough to cover a semester's tuition. I was standing in front of the bulletin board looking at the list when someone tapped me on the shoulder. Shinjawi. I turned around. It was a girl with a ponytail, smiling with a pair of dimples. My name is Qingyu, and I also received this scholarship. She extended her hand. We tied for first place. I shook her hand. Hello, are you alone? Shall we go celebrate with a meal together? I hesitated for a moment. In my previous life, I had no real friends. Those so-called sisters in the socialite circle were nothing more than superficial friendships based on mutual benefits. In this life, I've isolated myself too much, barely socializing beyond attending classes and working. Okay, I said. Qingyu became my only friend in college. She was a very cheerful and easygoing person, talking a mile a minute. She dragged me to join clubs, dragged me to see movies, dragged me to eat barbecue skewers in Wadayaku. I wasn't used to it at first, but gradually, I started to think it was actually pretty nice having someone around to talk to. One weekend in October, she dragged me to a lecture. What lecture? It's from the computer science department. An upperclassman is giving a talk. Her eyes lit up. I heard he's incredibly handsome and brilliant. He's published a paper in a top-tier conference and even won a startup competition. My heart skipped a beat. I'm not going, I said. Why not? Come on, please. I'll feel awkward going by myself. I'm really not going. Shinjawi. She leaned in to look at me. You've gone pale. Are you feeling unwell? No, just a bit tired. Then I won't go either. I'll walk you back to the dorm. No need. You go ahead, I said. I'm really fine. She looked at me for a moment and didn't press the issue. That night, I sat alone in my dorm, scrolling through my phone, Someone in my social circle had posted photos from a lecture. Payushan stood on the podium, wearing a white shirt with his sleeves rolled up to his forearms, holding a clicker. The projector light shone on his face as he slightly tilted his head, answering questions from the audience. The photo wasn't very clear, but I could see his expression, focused, serious, with a slight upward curve at the corner of his mouth. He was doing what he excelled at. He was shining. I zoomed in on the photo and stared at it for a long time. Then I closed it. In November, something happened. Something terrible has happened to the Shin family. Not the kind of good fortune from a past life. This is a real disaster. My father's building materials business was swindled. His partner ran off with the money, leaving a mountain of debt behind. My mother was crying on the phone, saying the creditors had come to our door, and she told me not to come back to Beijing. I took leave, bought the cheapest greenskin train ticket, and stood for 8 hours back to Hebei. When I got home, I saw my dad sitting on the doorstep smoking, unshaven, and looking much thinner. My mom was tidying up inside, saying she wanted to sell the house to pay off the debts. I withdrew all the money I had saved, 13,000, and placed it on the table. Here, Dad, use this for now. My dad looked at me, his eyes welling up. Sweetheart, did you save this up from working? It's okay, I still have my scholarship money. I'm so sorry, kiddo, don't say that. I crouched down, holding his hand. Everything will be okay. I stayed home for 2 days, helping them sort out the creditor issues, and contacted a lawyer, someone I knew from my previous life, but who doesn't know me now. I used the pretext of a student loan, claiming I was a poor student in need of legal aid. The other party was very kind and agreed to help us at a reduced rate. On the train back to Beijing, I leaned against the window, watching the overcast sky outside, and suddenly felt utterly exhausted. My phone vibrated. It was a message from Payushan this time. It wasn't an article or a piece of music, just a single sentence. Are you not at school? I was stunned for a moment. How did he know? I hesitated for a long time before replying to him for the first time. Went home for a bit. After I sent the message, I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. 3 seconds later, he replied, "What's wrong?" "Nothing, Shinjawi. It's really fine. There was a small family matter, but it's resolved now." "Where are you now?" "On the train back to Beijing." "Which train?" I didn't reply. "Which train?" "Shinjawi, K5226. "What time do you arrive in Beijing?" "At 11 p.m. I'll pick you up." "No need, it's not a question, it's a notification." I stared at the message, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. In his previous life, he had never done this, never. The train arrived at 11:05 p.m. As soon as I exited the station, I saw him. He stood in the crowd waiting at the station, wearing that black down jacket, holding a cup of hot milk tea. The wind was strong, tousling his hair into a mess. He saw me, walked over, and handed me the milk tea. "Why are your hands so cold?" he asked with a frown. "It's cold on the train." He glanced at my thin jacket, his brow furrowing even deeper. He unwound his own scarf and wrapped it around my neck. "Payushan, don't talk." He finished adjusting the scarf and took a step back. "Come on, I'll walk you back to campus." We walked side by side through the station exit corridor. The crowd was dense and noisy. Someone dragging a suitcase squeezed past and bumped into me. I stumbled a step, and he reached out to steady my arm. Even through my clothes, I could feel the warmth of his palm. "Thank you," I said. He didn't speak, but his hand didn't let go. He supported my arm like that all the way to the subway station. The subway was crowded, and there were no seats. We stood by the train door, facing each other. The carriage jolted, and I lost my balance, my forehead bumping against his chin. "Ouch," he hissed, sucking in a sharp breath. "I'm so sorry." I looked up. He looked down at me, rubbed his chin, and suddenly smiled. This wasn't the faint, almost invisible smile. It was a genuine one, with his eyes crinkling and a bit of teeth showing. "Your forehead is really hard," he said. I was stunned. In my previous life, I had never seen him smile like this. Never. The subway arrived at the station, the doors opened, and the crowd surged out. He was still standing in front of me, looking down at me, with a smile still lingering at the corner of his mouth. In that instant, something in my mind collapsed. "Shinjawi, what are you doing? You promised yourself not to get close to him, not to disturb him, not." "Payushan," I said. "Huh. You shouldn't have come to pick me up." His smile faltered for a moment. "You shouldn't be nice to me." My voice started to tremble. "You shouldn't have messaged me, shouldn't have sent me an umbrella, shouldn't have come to pick me up. You should stay far away from me, act as if I don't exist." He looked at me, saying nothing. "Do you have any idea?" I took a deep breath. "If you get close to me, you'll be ruined. You'll be ruined by me, just like I ruined you in my past life." "But I can't say it." "What would happen?" he asked. "You'd regret it," I said. Silence. The subway reached another station, the doors opened, then closed. We were the only two left in the carriage. Shinjaoi, he said, have you ever thought that there are some things beyond your control? What do you mean? For example, he looked at me, his gaze as calm as a still lake. My feelings for you. My mind went blank. You, the words caught in my throat. I like you, he said, his tone as casual as if he were commenting on the weather. I've liked you since the first time I saw you. In the library, you don't know who I am. I know more than you think. You don't know me. You go to the 4th floor of the library every Thursday afternoon because you like the light at that window seat. You never eat the spicy hot pot on the 2nd floor of the cafeteria because it's too spicy and makes your eyes water. When you read, you have a habit of folding the corners of important pages, but you can't do that with library books, so you lightly draw a line with a pencil and erase it before you leave. He paused for a moment. You get nervous every time you see me, your fingers clench into fists, your breathing quickens, you think you hide it well, but you don't. I stood frozen in place, my entire body rigid. You have no idea, I said, my voice trembling. Then tell me. He took a step closer. Every time you look at me, it's like you're looking at someone you owe a debt to. Shinjaoi, what are you so afraid of? What was I afraid of? I'm afraid I'll ruin you. Again, I'm afraid that once I get close to you, I won't be able to stop wanting more, and I'll tie you to me like I did in my previous life, until I grind you to dust. I won't tell you, I said, tears falling. Never. He watched me cry, made no move to comfort me, just stood there silently watching. The subway reached the terminal station, the announcement played, reminding passengers to disembark. Let's go, he said, I'll see you back. That night, he walked me all the way to the dormitory building. I stood at the door, unwrapped the scarf, and handed it back to him. You don't need to return it, he said. Here, take it back. He took it, but didn't put it on, just held it in his hand. Shinjaoi, he said, no matter what you've been through, no matter how bad you think you are. He paused. My feelings for you are my own business, they have nothing to do with you. I watched him turn and walk into the night. His back was straight, his steps steady, exactly as they had been in his past life. I stood downstairs in front of the dorm for a long time. It wasn't until my roommate called to ask why I hadn't come back yet. I went upstairs, lay in bed, and stared at the ceiling until dawn. My phone screen lit up. It was his message. Good night. 2 words. I stared at those 2 words until my eyes ached. Then I slipped my phone under the pillow and closed my eyes. 7. In the days that followed, I deliberately avoided all information about Pei-Yushin. I stopped looking at his social media, avoided anyone mentioning him, and stayed away from places he might be. Ching Yu invited me to his lecture, but I declined. She was talking about that genius senior from the computer science department in the dorm, so I put on my headphones. Shinjaoi, do you have some kind of issue with Pei-Yushin? She finally couldn't help but ask. No. Then why do you turn pale every time you hear his name? Do I? Yes, very obvious. I fell silent. Forget it. She waved her hand. If you don't want to talk about it, then don't. But have you ever thought that maybe they just want to be nice to you? You don't understand. I don't understand. But are you tired of hiding like this? Tired, very tired. But I had no other choice. In December, Beijing saw its first snowfall. After finishing my last class in the teaching building, I stepped outside to find the ground already covered in white. Students, in small groups, were taking photos and having snowball fights in the snowy field, their laughter carrying far into the distance. Standing on the steps of the teaching building, watching the snowfall, I was suddenly reminded of the day I died in my previous life. It was snowing that day, too. I pulled my coat tighter and headed back to the dormitory. Halfway through my walk, I saw the road ahead blocked off. Someone was arranging candles in a heart shape. A guy stood in the middle holding a bouquet of flowers, clearly preparing to confess his feelings. Among the onlookers, some were cheering, others were taking photos. I skirted around the crowd and continued walking. After a few steps, I heard someone call my name from behind. Shinjaoi. I turned around. It's not the guy who confessed, it's Pei-Yushin. He stood outside the crowd, empty-handed, with no flowers, no candles, nothing, just wearing a gray sweater, standing in the snow, with snowflakes falling on his hair and shoulders. You. I was stunned. He walked over and stood right in front of me. I know you won't agree, he said. Then why are you here? I need to tell you something. What is it? I got an offer, he said, a PhD at Stanford, full funding. I leave next September. My heart clenched. Stanford, full scholarship. In his past life, he got that offer too, but he didn't go, because my father said that to marry into the Shin family, he wasn't allowed to go abroad. He gave up Stanford, stayed in Beijing, got married, started a company, and then I personally destroyed it all. In this life, he can go, he can become who he was meant to be. Congratulations. I said, my voice trembling. You should go. I know, he said. I will go. That's good. Silence. The snow falls heavier, drifting between us. Xinjiao, he said, before I leave, there's just one thing I want to ask you. What? Have you ever, even for a moment, considered accepting me? I looked at him. A snowflake landed on his eyelashes. He blinked, and it melted into a droplet that trickled down. My lips parted. Yes, I had it in my past life. I have it in this one, too, from the very beginning. From the first life to this one, I have always been thinking, but I cannot. No, I said. He looked at me for a long time, then he smiled. It wasn't a faint smile, nor one that crinkled his eyes. It was a quiet smile, as if something had finally been put to rest. Okay, he said, I understand. He turned and walked away. His footprints were left in the snow, a straight line. Without hesitation, I stood still, watching his figure grow smaller and smaller, until it disappeared into the snowfall. Snowflakes landed on my face, cool and refreshing. I reached up and touched my cheek, finding it wet. I couldn't tell if it was melted snow or tears. That night, back in my dorm room, I opened my phone and scrolled to our chat history. Over a year, more than 100 messages. I had only ever replied to 2. One was went back home, the other was congratulations. I scrolled up one by one until I found the earliest one. Please take a look at the data annotation instructions. No rush. Reply to me tomorrow. I stared at this message for a long time, then I typed a line. Pei-Yushin, I'm sorry. 8. In my junior year of college, the Shin family's fortunes turned around. My father's building materials business came back from the brink. He landed several major contracts, going from drowning in debt to the richest man in the county within a year. Then he expanded rapidly, broke into the Beijing market, and amassed a fortune worth billions within 2 years. Everything was just as it had been in my previous life, but this time, I didn't go back. My father called and asked me to transfer to a business school abroad, but I refused. He offered to buy me a car, and I said no. He said he would buy me a house in Beijing, but I said no need. Hey girl, what's wrong? My dad asked over the phone. We've got money now. You don't have to suffer. I'm not suffering, I said. I like it this way. He didn't push me, but he still transferred 20,000 yuan to my card every month for living expenses. I didn't spend it and saved it all. Qing Yuyu says I'm crazy. Why don't you spend the money your dad gave you? I don't need it. You only get 800 a month for living expenses. What are you aiming for? Seek peace of mind. She rolled her eyes and didn't ask further. During his senior year, Pei-Yushin went to Stanford. I didn't go to see him off. I didn't even know the exact day he left. It was just one day when I was scrolling through Moments, and I saw a photo posted by a senior from the computer science department, Capital Airport. Pei-Yushin dragging a suitcase through security, his back slim, shoulders broad. The caption reads, Safe journey, see you at the top in the future. I zoomed in on the photo and stared at it for a long time, then I closed it. I started looking for a job, applied to over 20 companies and received 3 offers. Ultimately chose a mid-sized investment firm to work in industry research. The salary isn't high, but it's enough for me to live on. Qing Yuyu was furious. Your dad knows so many people. You could easily get into a top investment bank with just a word. Why aren't you going? I want to stand on my own 2 feet. What's wrong with you? Maybe. She looked at me for a moment and suddenly fell quiet. Xinjiao, she said, are you still thinking about that person? I didn't say anything. It's been 2 years. Her voice softened. You never mention him. But I know you still have all his photos saved on your phone. I don't. You do. Last time you were drunk, you asked me to unlock your phone for you, and I saw a folder in your photo album, full of his pictures, photos from lectures, screenshots from Moments, and even one that was taken from someone else's Weibo. Qing Yuyu, I interrupted her. Okay, I won't say any more. She raised her hands. But you have to be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself. I don't know what honesty is. All I know is that I can't get close to him. This is the only thing I can do for him. 9. After starting work, life became very routine. I leave at 8 a.m., arrive at the office at 9 a.m., review reports, write analyses, and attend meetings. I leave work at 7 p.m., return to my rental place, cook, read, and sleep. Occasionally, I have dinner with Qing Yuyu on weekends, and sometimes I spend an afternoon alone at the library. I'm not seeing anyone. It's not deliberate. I just haven't felt the urge. Qing Yuyu set me up with 3 guys, and I didn't meet a single one. What exactly do you want? She pressed, getting flustered. Nothing, really. Are you still waiting for him? No, he's in the States. I'm in Beijing. We have no contact. Then why would you? Because I don't need to, I said. I'm doing just fine now. She looked at me and sighed. Xinjiao, you know what? Your biggest problem is that you're too tolerant. I didn't say a word. It was 2023. My third year on the job, Yu Shenpei graduated from Stanford. I didn't deliberately inquire, but the internet has a memory. His thesis has been cited over 1,000 times. He has won several prestigious awards, and his doctoral advisor is a leading figure in AI. After graduation, he turned down offers from Google and Meta, returning to China to start his own business. The news headline was, 90s AI genius Yu Shenpei returns to China to start a business. Company valuation tops $100 million overnight. I looked at the news and laughed. In this life, he didn't marry into the Shen family. He didn't have his company destroyed. He didn't sign the divorce papers. He became who he was meant to be. As for me, I just gave a thumbs up under the news. No comments, no shares, nothing at all. His company is in Beijing, Zhongguancun. My company is in Guamao. The distance between us is about 40 minutes by taxi, but it feels very far to me, far enough to feel like two separate worlds. One evening in 2024, Qing Yuyu dragged me to an industry cocktail party. I don't want to go, I said. You have to go, she said, pulling me up from the couch. My boss told me to bring people to help make a showing. If you don't go, I'm done for. I was dragged to the cocktail party by her, the banquet hall of a 5-star hotel, crystal chandeliers, champagne towers, and well-dressed people holding wine glasses, exchanging pleasantries. This scene made me feel disoriented. In my previous life, I was too familiar with such occasions. I wore my most expensive gown, adorned with the brightest jewels, and with Pei Yushen's arm in mine, I smiled and greeted everyone. His expression was always that polite, distant, and task-like calmness. Xinjiaoyi, a voice came from behind. I turned around. A man stood before me, around 30 years old, wearing gold-rimmed glasses and a well-tailored dark blue suit. He held a glass of red wine in his hand and smiled at me. I recognized him. Liu Shiyan. In his previous life, he was Pei Yushen's partner. When Pei Yushen's company faced withdrawal of investment, he was the only one who didn't run away. But later, when Pei Yushen decided to sell the company to pay off debts, he cried. In this life, he didn't partner with Pei Yushen because Pei Yushen didn't start the company that was funded by the Shen family. Who are you? I pretended not to recognize him. Liu Shiyan. He extended his hand. I work in hard tech. What about you? Xinjiaoyi. Investments. Which one? I told him the company's name. He nodded. I've heard of them. A good firm. We chatted for a bit. He was well-spoken, professional, but not arrogant. Just like in my past life, Ms. Shen, he said suddenly, would you be interested in making a move? Our company is looking for someone in investor relations. Thank you, but I'm currently, no rush. He handed me a business card. Think about it. I took the card and slipped it into my bag. Halfway through the reception, I went to the restroom. Coming out, I heard a familiar voice in the hallway. I'm not quite used to this kind of occasion. My steps came to a halt. My heart felt like it was being gripped by an invisible hand. That voice, that tone, that sentence, the exact same words he said at the alumni meeting 6 years ago. I stood at the corner of the corridor, afraid to move forward. Pei Yushen, you have to get used to it. Liu Shiyan's voice said, you're the founder. You have to be here for occasions like this. I know. Oh, I just met a girl who works in investment. She's quite interesting. Want to meet her? No. Thanks. Can you stop being so reserved? You're almost 30 and don't even have a girlfriend. Liu Shiyan. Alright, I'll drop it. I leaned against the wall and closed my eyes. He was just around the corner, less than 10 meters away. I could walk out, greet him, and say, long time no see. And then it all starts over again. I can't help but get close to him, want him, possess him. I'll become that crazy woman from my past life, using the Shen family's money and power to tie him to me until he hates me. No, I can't. I turned around and left the reception through the fire exit on the other side. As I stepped out of the hotel, the strong wind in Beijing made it hard for me to keep my eyes open. I stood by the roadside hailing a taxi when my phone rang. It was Qing Yuyu. Where did you go? I've been looking everywhere for you. I'm heading out. I don't feel well. What's wrong? It's nothing, just a bit tired. Hanging up the phone, I stood in the wind, suddenly feeling an overwhelming urge to cry, but I held it back. A taxi arrived. I got in, gave the address, leaned back in the seat, and watched the neon lights outside the window recede one by one. My phone rang again. It was an unknown number. I answered it. Hello, Xinjiaoyi. My fingers tightened around the phone. It was him. Pei Yushen's voice was deeper than it had been 6 years ago, tinged with a weary rasp, but the cadence was unchanged, steady, unhurried, as if stating a simple fact. You were at the reception just now, he said. It wasn't a question. How did you know? Liu Shiyan told me he met a girl with the surname Shen, works in investment, so I figured it out. Silence. You left through the fire escape. he said. I saw you. My heart skipped a beat. Did you see me? Yeah. I saw your back when you turned around. He saw me turn and walk away just like 6 years ago. In the library, the cafeteria, on the lawn, at the subway station, every single time. I was the one who turned and walked away. Payushin, I said, you changed. Your number, yeah, I don't use the old one anymore. So you deleted me. Silence. You think I deleted you? His voice sounded strange. Shinjaoi, I never deleted you. You're the one who deleted me. I was stunned. What? That night in December 2019, you sent me a message, and when I replied, there was a red exclamation mark. You deleted me as a friend yourself and then forgot. My mind buzzed. Impossible. I didn't, and then it came back to me that night, as I walked back to the dorm from the classroom building. I saw him confessing his feelings to me in the snow. I said no. He turned and walked away that night. Back in my dorm room, I drank a lot. Qingyu bought it, saying it was to celebrate her landing a job offer. I got drunk, crying as I scrolled through my phone, until I found our chat history. And then I don't remember. Shinjaoi, Pei Yushin's voice came from the other end of the phone, very softly. You're the one who deleted me. I've been waiting. He said, waiting for you to add me back. I waited a year, you never did. Later, I went to America. I thought, forget it, if you weren't willing, I wouldn't force it. But then you showed up at the reception today. When Lu Shurian mentioned your name, my whole being, he stopped. I heard heavy breathing on the other end of the phone. Pei Yushin, Shinjaoi, he interrupted me. It's been 6 years. You've been avoiding me for 6 years. Can you tell me why? The taxi stopped at the traffic light. The light from outside shone in, and I saw my face reflected on the car window, tears streaming down my cheeks. Because I owe you, I said. What? I owe you? From my past life? What are you talking about? You wouldn't understand. I closed my eyes. Pei Yushin, you shouldn't get close to me. You should stay far away from me. You should go to Stanford, start a business, become who you want to be. My life shouldn't be part of yours. Who are you to make decisions for me? Because I have seen with my own eyes the way you were destroyed by me. Because I don't deserve it, I said. There was a long silence on the other end of the phone, long enough that I thought he had hung up. Shinjaoi, his voice was hoarse, as if he was holding something back. Listen to me. I don't know what you mean by last life. I don't know what you're really afraid of, but there's one thing I'm certain of. From the first time I saw you in the library until now, it's been exactly 7 years. You've been avoiding me for 7 years. You deleted me. I waited for you to add me back. You didn't reply. I kept sending messages. You said no. I turned away, but my heart never left. You always say you're not worthy, but you never asked me if I'm willing. I'm telling you, I do. No matter what you've done, no matter how terrible you think you are, I do, but you won't give me that chance. The light turned green, the taxi pulled away. I clutched my phone, trembling all over. Pei Yushin, if you don't want to talk about it now, that's fine, he said, but I won't wait anymore. What do you mean? I'll come to your office to see you tomorrow. Don't. I'm not asking. I'm telling you. The call ended. I stared at my phone screen. The call duration, 14 minutes and 32 seconds, exactly the same as 6 years ago. It's not a question, it's a notification. I covered my face and cried out loud. The taxi driver glanced at me in the rearview mirror and quietly turned up the heat a bit. 10. The next day, I didn't go to the office. I took a leave, turned off my phone, and locked myself in the rental apartment. The curtains were tightly closed, and the room was very dark. I sat on the bed, hugging my knees, my mind a chaotic mess. What if he comes? What should I say? Should I tell him I've been reborn? Should I tell him that in my past life, I forced him into a marriage, destroyed his company, and then died in a car crash? Should I tell him I'm a lunatic? What would he think? He'd think I'm insane. Or, would you believe it, the doorbell rang. I froze. No way. He doesn't know where I live. The doorbell rang again. Then came a knock. 3 taps, soft and rhythmic. Shinjaoi. His voice came from outside the door. I know you're in there. How does he know where I live? I held my breath, not moving a muscle. Qingyu told me. He said, Qingyu, I'm going to kill her. Open the door. He said, not here. I said. There was silence outside for 2 seconds. When you said not here, it already proved you were inside me. Open the door, Shinjaoi, we need to talk. I have nothing to say to you. Then just listen. I heard the sound of him sitting down against the door, the rustle of fabric against the wall, then silence. Go ahead, I said. A moment of silence passed. Do you know why I went to Stanford? He asked. Because you got the full scholarship. The full scholarship was only part of it, he said. The real reason is, you made me go. What? That night in December 2019, I asked you in the snow if you had ever considered being with me. You said no. I went back to my dorm that night and thought about it for a long time. I thought, since you weren't willing, I should leave, go far away, so I wouldn't bother you anymore. But in my heart, I kept thinking, if I became good enough, if I became strong enough, would there come a day when you'd be willing to tell me what it is you're so afraid of? I leaned against the door, tears streaming down my face in silence, every single day at Stanford. I thought of you. His voice was low, almost as if he were talking to himself. Every time I published a paper, I wondered, would you see it? Every time I won an award, I wondered, would you be happy for me? Every time I pulled an all-nighter in the lab, I wondered, were you working another shift at the convenience store? I came back, I started a company. I'm standing in this city, less than 10 kilometers from you. But you won't even give me a chance to see you. Shinjawi, what are you so afraid of? I opened my mouth, but the words caught in my throat. Say it, tell him you're a reborn soul, tell him you ruined him in your past life, tell him you're not worthy of him, say it. My voice trembled. I had a dream. The outside fell silent. What dream? I dreamed. I took a deep breath. I dreamed of my past life, where I was a very bad person, my family was very wealthy, and I forced you to marry into my family. Even though you didn't want to, I coerced you into it. We got married, but we tormented each other. I destroyed your company, and you hated me. In the end, I got into a car accident and died in the ICU. You knelt by the roadside, your hands covered in my blood. I paused, and then I woke up. When I awoke, I was 18 again, back at Tsinghua. I swear, in this life, I won't come near you, I won't disturb you, I'll let you live your own life. After I finished speaking, there was a long silence outside the door. It felt so long, I thought he had left. Are you finished? His voice was calm. I'm finished. What do you think I'm going to say? Think I'm crazy? No, he said. I was wondering how long you've been carrying this dream alone. I was stunned. 7 years, he said. You've been carrying it for 7 years. Don't you think I'm crazy? No, he said. I just think you're being foolish. It was just a dream, he said. Even if everything you said is true, that in a past life we tormented each other, ending in death and ruin. But that was a dream. No, not a dream. It was another path. But you're standing here now, and I'm standing here. We didn't get married, we didn't torture each other, my company wasn't destroyed. Shut up, I won't. His voice suddenly carried a hint of amusement. Shinjawi, you've been avoiding me for 7 years over a dream. Do you think you're so great? I don't think I'm great. You do think you're great. He tapped the door behind him. You thought staying away from me was doing me a favor, but did you ever ask me? Did you ever ask what I wanted? What do you want? I want you. For words, like 4 nails, driving into my heart. I don't care who you were in your past life, he said. I don't care if you were a wealthy young lady or a bad person. All I know is that this life Shinjawi is a clumsy girl who accidentally dropped a pile of magazines in the library. She's a fool working at a convenience store at 3 in the morning. She's someone who clearly likes someone but refuses to admit it. I don't like you. You don't. No. Then why are you crying? I touched my face. It was wet. I'm not crying. Your voice changes every time you cry, he said. Your nose gets stuffy, and you speak with a nasal tone. You have that now. I fell silent. Open the door, he said. I won't. Shinjawi, I won't. There was silence outside the door for a moment. Then I heard him stand up. Okay, he said. I'll come back tomorrow. The footsteps faded away. I leaned against the door, listening as his footsteps grew fainter and fainter, eventually disappearing at the end of the corridor. I looked down and saw a note slipped under the door. I picked it up. It was his handwriting, neat and precise. Whether you open the door or not, I will come, until you are willing to face me. Pei Yushin. I pressed the note to my chest, curled up on the bed, and cried for a long time. 11. He really did come every single day. On the first day, he knocked and said, open the door. I said, no. He sat leaning against the door for half an hour, then left. On the second day, he knocked and said, open the door. I said, I'm not here. He said, you're saying not here again. I said, just go. He sat leaning against the door for 40 minutes. The third day, the fourth day, the fifth day. On the seventh day, I opened the door. He was sitting on the floor, leaning against the door with a laptop on his knees, writing code. The door suddenly swung open, causing him to jerk backward and nearly lose his balance. He looked up at me. I stood in the doorway, wearing a pilled hoodie, my hair a mess, and my eyes swollen like walnuts. He stared at me for 3 seconds, then smiled. You finally opened the door, he said. Are you done yet? My voice sounded hoarse, not like my own. Annoying, he said, but I'm not leaving. He stood up, closed his laptop, and looked at me. Shinjawi, I need to ask you something. What is it? That dream you mentioned, in our past life, after we were married, was I ever good? To you. I thought about it for a moment. No, he never treated me well, but I also never gave him the chance to. No, I said. Have you ever treated me well? No. Then we really did torment each other, he said, but that was our last life. This one is different. How is it different? In this life, he took a step forward. You didn't force me into a matrilocal marriage. You didn't wreck my company. You just dropped a pile of magazines in the library and ran. In this life, he said. Looking down at me, Peyushin came to you of his own accord. My tears fell once more. Could you please stop crying, he said, though his voice was gentle. I'm not crying. You're getting that nasal tone in your voice again. I sniffled and glared at him. He reached out, hesitated for a moment, then gently wiped the tears from my face. His fingers were cool, with a slight roughness from calluses. It was exactly the same as in my past life. Shinjawi, he said, I don't need you to sacrifice yourself for me. I don't need you to hide from me. I don't need you to carry all of this alone. I only need you to do one thing. What is it? Don't turn away from me again. I looked at him. The corridor light fell on him, and his eyes were bright, just like that fluorescent lamp in the library 7 years ago. My lips parted. Peyushin, have you ever thought about it? What if that dream was real? I have. Aren't you scared? What are you afraid of? Afraid I might become that person in your dream, using the Shin family's money and power to control you, to destroy everything you have. He looked at me, serious, and said, you won't. How do you know? The Shinjawi who worked at the convenience store until 3 a.m. could never destroy anyone, he said. The Shinjawi who gave all her hard-earned money to pay off her family's debts could never destroy anyone. The Shinjawi who stayed away from someone for 7 years just to avoid disturbing them. He paused. You were too afraid to even get close to me. How could you possibly have destroyed me? I burst into tears. He pulled me into his arms. It was a gentle embrace, as if he was afraid of breaking something. One arm wrapped around my back, the other pressed against the back of my head, burying my face into the crook of his shoulder. Don't cry, he said, his voice low and steady in my ear. I'm not crying. My voice was muffled against his shoulder, the words coming out thick and indistinct. Okay, you didn't cry, he said, his chin resting on the top of my head. I could smell him, the faint scent of laundry detergent, and a hint of coffee's bitterness, exactly the same as the last life, yet completely different. 12 We are together now. It's not a grand, dramatic affair, but a quiet, natural progression. He didn't move in with me, and I didn't move in with him. We each live in our own rented apartments, have meals together on weekends, and occasionally watch movies together when he works overtime. I bring him midnight snacks when I'm on a business trip. He messages me. This time, I replied to every single one. When Xingyu found out, she screamed into the phone for 3 minutes. I knew it. I knew it. You two were bound to end up together. Keep your voice down, Shinjawi. How long have you been hiding this from me? I haven't been hiding it. We just got together. Bullshit. You've had his photos saved on your phone for 7 years. Listen, I'm telling you, I've thought Peyushin had a thing for you since sophomore year. Every time there's an event in the computer science department, he asks if anyone from the finance department is coming. What did you say? Huh, I never told you. He always asks if anyone from our department is coming whenever he organizes a lecture. I just thought he was trying to boost attendance. I hung up the phone and turned to look at Peyushin, who was coding beside me. Do you always ask if there are any finance majors coming to your lectures? His fingers paused for a moment. Did Xingyu say that? Silence. So you didn't just happen to appear beside me, I said. You did it on purpose. He didn't speak, and the tips of his ears turned red. I suddenly found it hilarious. Peyushin, who always wore a blank expression in my past life, could actually have his ears turn red. Peyushin, when did you start liking me? He thought for a long time. The library, he said. You came down from the ladder, magazines scattered all over the floor. You crouched down to pick them up. Your hair fell loose, and you tucked it behind your ear with your hand. Is that why? Not for that, he said, but because when you picked up the magazines, you put one in the wrong place. When you noticed, you climbed back up to rearrange it. What's so special about it? It is special, he said. Most people would just leave it if they misplaced it. You wouldn't. I looked at him. Peyushin, You're a really strange person. Yeah, but I think I like you too. He turned to look at me. His ears were still red, but the corners of his mouth were turned up in a smile. What did you say? I said. I think I like you too. He stared at me for 5 seconds, then looked down and typed a line on the keyboard. I leaned over to take a look, and it was a line of code. Print, I love you too. I burst out laughing. He laughed too. In the spring of 2025, we got married. It wasn't a case of him marrying into my family. It wasn't a forced marriage, there was no Porsche, no prenup, no company smashed to pieces, it was just the two of us, at the Civil Affairs Bureau, with our ID cards and household registers, taking a photo. In the photo, he's wearing a white shirt, and I'm in a white dress, he's smiling, and so am I. The photographer said, "This one's good, very natural." That night we got our red certificates. We sat on the balcony of his rented apartment, drinking beer and eating skewers. The night sky in Beijing doesn't show any stars, but the moon is bright and round, hanging in the sky. "Pei Yushin," I said, "do you have any regrets?" "Regrets about what?" "About meeting me." He thought for a moment. "Regret?" I froze. "I regret not coming to find you sooner," he said. "I should have come to find you when you were working at the convenience store during your freshman year. You didn't know me back then." "I know you," he said. "You gave a speech at the freshman orientation when you first started. I saw you from the back row." But you were too young back then." I thought, I should wait. I looked at him. The moonlight fell on his face, and his expression was gentle, completely different from the man who always wore a cold expression in his previous life. No, it's not that he's a different person, it's the same person, but he took a different path in this life. He wasn't trapped by the Shin family. He went to Stanford, published top-tier conference papers, won awards, and returned to start his own business. He became who he was meant to be, and in this life, I didn't drive a Porsche, didn't force anyone to marry into my family, and didn't smash anyone's belongings. I'm just an ordinary girl, working part-time in the library, pulling all-nighters at the convenience store, and saving money to pay off my student loans. We're all just ordinary people, ordinary, whole people who don't hurt each other. Shinjawi, he called my name. That dream you mentioned, in our past life, did I ever forgive you in the end? I thought about it. In that past life, I died in the ICU. My last words were, "I'm sorry." He was kneeling by the roadside, his hands covered in my blood. I don't know if he forgave me. I never got the chance to find out. "It doesn't matter anymore," I said. "Why?" "Because in this life, you don't need to forgive me." He looked at me and reached out to hold my hand. His hand was warm as in my previous life. But this time, I didn't pull back. The moon hung in the sky, bright and high. I leaned on his shoulder and closed my eyes. This time, I don't need him to be high above in the sky. He is right by my side. The end. Perspective of Pei Yushin Prequel 1. I was clearing up company documents when I received the call. The company is gone, investors pulled out, partners fled, and employees scattered. A valuation of 300 million turned into a mountain of debt. I sold all my patents, paid off the suppliers, and in the end, all that was left was this desk, this computer, and a floor littered with shattered trophies. When I wrote the first line of code here 3 years ago, I never imagined it would end like this. The phone rang, an unknown number. "Is this Mr. Pei Yushin? You are MS Shinjao's emergency contact." Shinjao. This name made me instinctively grip my phone tightly. "She's been in a car accident. Please come as soon as possible." I remember not speaking. I hung up the phone, stood up. The chair fell over, and I didn't bother to pick it up. I walked to the door and realized my shoes were on the wrong feet, but I didn't go back to change them. That day in Beijing, it snowed heavily. The taxi was stuck on the third ring road, not moving at all. I pushed the car door open and ran through the snow for 40 minutes. By the time I reached the scene, my shoes were filled with slush, and my feet had gone completely numb. The scene was utter chaos. People were shouting, people were crying. The taste of blood mixed with melted snow was nauseating. Shinjawi lay on the ground. Her hair was matted with blood, her face was scratched, the wound on her neck was bleeding, and her lips were as pale as paper. I walked over, knelt down, and pressed on the wound on her neck. My legs were trembling. "Shinjawi, hold on, I beg you." She showed no reaction. "Shinjawi," I called out again, my voice sounding unfamiliar. Her eyelids fluttered, then she slowly opened her eyes. She saw me. I haven't really looked into those eyes for a long time. For 2 years of marriage, I've been avoiding her eyes because every time I see them, I remember that day on the overpass. She rolled down the car window, looked up at me, and said, "Pei Yushin, marry me, and I'll give you freedom." Back then, she was 22, her eyes full of boldness and certainty, like someone who knew she would win. Now, at 24, her eyes are bloodshot and weary, like someone who has finally realized she has lost. The ambulance arrived, and the nurses lifted her onto a stretcher, rushing her to the hospital for emergency treatment. She lay in the ICU, her body covered in tubes, the beeping of the heart monitor echoing in my heart with every sound. I walked over, took her hand, and pleaded, "Shinjawi, please, don't die." Her eyelids fluttered, then opened. Her lips parted slightly. I lowered my head and leaned closer to her, sorry, 3 words, very light, like a breath. Then the cardiac monitor let out a long beep. The green line turned into a straight, flat one. I stood there. The sounds from the corridor faded away. The sound of the nurse running over faded away. The shout of clear faded away. All that remained in the world was that single, straight line and her hand. Her hand still rested on the edge of the bed, her fingertips cool to the touch. I took her hand in mine and found it was small, with slender fingers and prominent knuckles. I remember these hands used to have beautiful manicures, shiny like 10 little stars. Now the nails are broken, and there's blood between the fingers. I held her hand tightly. The nurse nudged me. Sir, please step aside. I didn't move. Sir, please step aside. Someone pulled me away. I saw the nurses gather around, saw the defibrillator press down, saw her body jerk up, and saw that straight line remain a straight line once, twice, 3 times. Stop resuscitation. Time, 23:17. The nurse covered the body with a white sheet. The white sheet was slowly pulled up, starting from the feet, passing the knees, the chest, and finally the neck. As the sheet was pulled up to my chin, I said, wait. The nurse paused. I looked at her face. Her eyes were closed, her expression serene, as if she were asleep. I've seen her wear many expressions, defiant, furious, sarcastic, hysterical, but I've never seen her this calm, as if there's finally no need to make a scene anymore, no need to smash things anymore, no more late night calls to yell at me, no more asking, did you ever really love me? Finally, silence. I reached out and brushed a strand of hair from her forehead. My fingers touched her skin. It was still warm. The white sheet was drawn up. It covered her face. I stood by the bed for a long time. The nurse came to hurry me along 3 times, telling me to go and complete the formalities. As I walked out, a man was crying in the hallway, 40-something, wearing an expensive suit. He crouched on the floor, sobbing like a child. Her father. I didn't approach him. I leaned against the wall for a moment, then went to get the death certificate. The doctor asked me, what was your relationship to the deceased? I thought for a moment. Husband, ex-husband. She signed the divorce agreement, but in my heart, she'd always seemed to be. Never mind. Enough said. 2. Her funeral was in 3 days. The snow in Beijing hadn't stopped yet. Many people came, mostly from the business world, her father's business partners, her mother's friends, and her own socialite sisters. I stood at the back row. Her father saw me, walked over, his eyes red. Xiao Pei, he said, Mr. Shen. He paused, his voice hoarse. What did she say at the end? I'm sorry. He froze for a moment, then tears streamed down his face again. This kid, he said, the last thing she'd ever say is sorry. Her mom said she's always been like this, never admitting her mistakes. If she broke a vase, it was the wind's fault. If she failed an exam, it was because the test was printed wrong. He couldn't continue. I stood in front of him, not knowing what to say. Mr. Shen wiped his eyes and looked at me. Xiao Pei, I know she wronged you. I'm aware of everything that happened at the company. She shouldn't have caused a scene at your office. Mr. Shen, I cut him off. Please, don't say any more. He gave a nod, patted me on the shoulder, and turned to leave. After the funeral ended, the crowd dispersed. I stood outside the funeral home, waiting for a taxi. A girl walked over, wearing a black coat, her eyes swollen from crying. She glanced at me, hesitated for a moment, and then walked over. Are you Pei Yushin? Yes, I'm Shen Qingyu, a friend of Shen Zhaoyi's. I didn't say anything. Shen Qingyu paused, biting her lip. She never meant to hurt you. She just doesn't know how to love someone. She grew up poor, and then suddenly her family had money. Her father was always busy with business, her mother with social climbing. No one ever taught her how to be good to another person. She thinks being good to someone means giving them money, giving them things, tying them to her side. The things she did to you, it wasn't because she hated you, it was because she didn't know how else to make you stay. I didn't say a word. Shen Qingyu looked at me, and tears began to fall once more. You know, every time she drinks, she cries, she sobs, asking why Pei Yushin won't look at her, asking if Pei Yushin hates her, asking what she has to do to make him like her. I told her, don't go make a scene at his office, don't smash his things, don't pressure him, but she wouldn't listen. That's the only way she knows, the forceful, brutal way that leaves both her and the other person battered and bruised, because she didn't know how to do anything else. Shen Qingyu finished speaking and left. I stood outside the funeral home, snow falling on my shoulders. She didn't know how to love someone. She only knew one way, a way that left both her and the other person battered and bruised. I got into the taxi and gave the address. As the car started moving, I closed my eyes, my mind filled with her last words. I'm sorry, she said. I'm sorry. Not I hate you. Not are you happy now. Not are you glad I'm dead. It was I'm sorry. With her last ounce of strength, she spoke those 3 words. 3. I returned to that villa, the Shen family's villa, the place we lived after we got married. Her room is on the 3rd floor, a guest room. Yes, she stayed in the guest room, and I stayed in the master bedroom. After she threw my things out, she moved into the guest room herself. I pushed the door open. The room was a mess. Clothes were strewn all over the floor, designer bags piled in the corner, and the lids of the cosmetics on the vanity were left unscrewed, dried up. Her bed wasn't made, the blanket was crumpled into a ball. There were tear stains on the pillow, yellow and circular. I sat on her bed. Her scent still lingered on the pillow. It was hard to describe. Like a mix of shampoo and cigarette smoke. When did she start smoking? I have no idea. I opened her nightstand drawer. Inside was a notebook, black hardcover, corners worn white. I opened it. It was her diary. The handwriting is awful, all crooked and wobbly, like a grade schooler's. The date on the first page is from 2 years ago, the 3rd day after we got married. Today, Payushin moved into the guest room. My dad wasn't happy about it. He said a live-in son-in-law shouldn't be staying in a guest room. I told him it was fine, that he's used to living alone. The truth is, I was afraid he'd see me drooling in my sleep. I turned to the next page. Payushin didn't come home until 3 a.m. today. I waited up for him. When he walked in, I pretended to be getting a drink of water and said goodnight. He just grunted and went to his room. Does he hate me? Next page. I brought my guy best friend home for dinner today. Payushin took one look, said nothing, and went straight to his study. I laughed extra loud on purpose, hoping he'd come out. He didn't. Later, I knocked on his study door. He said he was busy. I asked, busy with what? He said, work. I asked, is work more important than me? He was silent for a long time, then said, Shinjaoi, what is it you actually want? I said I want you to be my husband, not just in name. He's gone. He didn't come back the next day. On the 3rd day, his assistant brought the divorce papers. I tore up the papers, so I went and made a scene at his office. I know it was wrong, but I didn't know what else to do. He wouldn't look at me, wouldn't talk to me, wouldn't come home. It felt like I had to smash something just to get him to glance my way. He looked at me. He hates me. The dates on the next page are far apart. The handwriting is messy, as if written while drunk. I signed the divorce agreement today. When Payushin came to me with the agreement, I was drinking. He stood at the door, wearing that gray sweater, looking much thinner. He placed the agreement on the table and said, Shinjaoi, just sign it. I said okay. He paused for a moment. Probably didn't expect me to agree so readily. I signed. He picked up the agreement and turned to leave. I said, Payushin. He stopped. I asked, have you ever loved me? He didn't turn back. He stood there for a long time and said, no. Then he left. I smashed the wine bottle on the table. Glass shards pierced my hand, and blood dripped onto the floor. I looked at the blood and suddenly found it all quite amusing. I asked him if he ever loved me. He said no. Isn't this the answer I wanted? I forced him to marry me. Forced him into this marriage, forced him to hate me. I succeeded. He hates me now. I should be happy, but it hurts so much. It's not the hand that hurts, it's here that hurts. She drew a circle under the word here and pointed to her chest. The last page, dated the day of the incident. There was only one line, if I died, would he remember me? I closed the notebook. My fingers were trembling. She said she didn't know how to love. All she knew was a way that left both her and the other person battered and bruised. She asked me if I had ever loved her. I said no. I lied, for I drove onto the 5th Ring Road. The snow has stopped, but the roads are icy and slippery. I don't know why I'm going there. I just kept driving, following the same route she took at the end. The guardrail on the 5th Ring Road was smashed. The new replacement section was a different color, stark white. There were still skid marks on the ground, long and snaking. I stopped the car, got out, and stood by the roadside. The wind was fierce, stinging my face. She came speeding out from here. A truck was coming the other way. She swerved and crashed into the guardrail. The police said she was fully at fault. She was speeding 140 kilometers per hour on an 80 kilometers per hour road. 140 kilometers per hour. Did she do it on purpose, or was it just out of control? I don't know. I'll never know. I stood by the guardrail, watching the distant traffic. The taillights formed a red line in the snowy night, like a long wound. I suddenly remembered how she looked when she first came to see me at the west gate of Tsinghua. On the overpass, she drove a Porsche, stopped under the bridge, and looked up at me through the open window. Payushin, marry me, and I'll give you freedom. She was 22, wearing a white dress, her hair draped over her shoulders, and the sunlight on her face was dazzling. What was I thinking back then? I was thinking, there's fire in this girl's eyes, not the warm kind that lights up people, It's the wildfire kind, the kind that burns mountains. Anyone who gets close to her will be reduced to ashes. I should have refused. I turned her down 3 times, but she came a 4th time, a 5th, a 6th. The last time, she stood at the door of my rented room, drenched by the rain, her hair plastered to her face, her lips turning purple. Payushin, she said, what will it take for you to marry me? I looked at her, rain dripped from her chin, her eyes were red, but she wasn't crying. She wouldn't cry. It was only later that I found out she would rather break things or drive into guardrails than cry in front of people. Okay, I said. She paused for a moment. What? I said okay. Her eyes lit up instantly. It was as if someone had blown on the embers, and the fire reignited. That was the most beautiful I had ever seen her. Not the version of her in a designer gown, mingling at a banquet, not the version of her flaunting a Porsche at Tsinghua's gate. It was the version of her, drenched in the rain, lips turning purple, yet with eyes that suddenly lit up. This is the look on my face when I said yes. I stood on the 5th ring road, the wind rushing into my collar, chilling me to the bone. I closed my eyes. Shinjaoi, you said sorry, but I never told you. I'm sorry too. Sorry for not really seeing you. I'm sorry for only replying with an MHM when you said goodnight. I'm sorry for walking away to the study when you brought your guy friend home for dinner. I'm sorry for saying no when you asked if I ever loved you. I'm sorry. I stood at your funeral, and everyone thought I was just there for appearances, but they didn't know. I had a piece of paper in my pocket. It was the note you stuck on the library shelf during your freshman year. It read, Economics Journals, arranged by year. Please do not misplace. The handwriting was awful, all scrawled and crooked. Every time I went to the 4th floor of the library, I would see that sticky note. Later, you changed your shift and stopped working the afternoons, but that note remained. When I graduated, I peeled it off and tucked it inside my copy of Introduction to Algorithms. I've carried it for 6 years, from Tsinghua to the rental apartment, from the apartment to the office, and from the office on to this 5th ring road. I've kept it with me all this time. 5. My later days were fairly normal. I found a new job, wrote new code, and launched a new product. No one knows that Pei Yushin once ran a company, and no one knows he was once the son-in-law of the Shin family. I'm just an ordinary engineer, working 9 to 6, with weekend overtime. But something had changed. I started having trouble sleeping every night, lying in bed. The moment I closed my eyes, I would see her. She was standing on the overpass, the sunlight falling on her face. She lay on the cold operating table, her lips as pale as paper. She said, Pei Yushin, marry me. She said, I'm sorry. I tossed and turned, finally falling asleep around 3 or 4 in the morning. Even then, I would wake up, and once awake, I couldn't fall back asleep. I've lost a lot of weight. My clothes are 2 sizes too big now, and I have to fasten my belt on the last hole. My colleagues said I looked sick. I told them I was fine, just not sleeping well. I started visiting the places she used to go, the footbridge at Tsinghua University's West Gate. I stood in the same spot as before, looking down. Cars came and went, but no Porsche. The 4th floor of the library. The economics journal was still there, but the note was gone. I tore it away. I stood there, remembering her coming down the ladder, magazines scattered all over, her hair disheveled, tucking it behind her ear. Every time I went to the library, I would sit in a spot where I could see her. She doesn't know. She thought I was coding, but in reality, I wrote and deleted, over and over, leaving nothing behind. When she was around, my mind was filled with her. Even after she left, my mind was still occupied by her. One late night, I stumbled upon her WeChat. I haven't deleted her. Our chat history is still there. I scrolled up, reading each message one by one. Her last message read, Pei Yushin, I'm sorry, a red exclamation mark. She deleted me, but she didn't know I saw that message. Because I didn't delete her, she deleted me, but her chat box is still on my phone. I saw that. Sorry. That night, I sat in my rented room, staring at that message for a long time. I wanted to reply to her. I wanted to say it's okay. I wanted to ask where are you. I wanted to say, I'll come find you. But I didn't, because I didn't know what to say. I don't know why she said sorry. I don't know why she deleted me. I don't know. Now I know, but it's too late. 6. Spring has arrived. In Beijing, the snow has melted, the trees have turned green, and flowers have bloomed in successive waves. I went to see a therapist. It's not that I want to die. It's that I've realized I can no longer feel anger. I used to get angry when she caused a scene at my office. I got angry when she smashed my trophy. I got angry when she pressured me into marriage. Now, I don't get angry anymore. It's not forgiveness. It's that all emotion has been drained away, leaving only a quiet, profound exhaustion. The doctor said these are symptoms of depression. Have you ever considered that your feelings for her might be more than just hate? I know, I know I don't hate her. The doctor looked at me. I've always known, I said, from the very first day, when she came to my company causing a scene, when investors pulled out, when my partners ran off. I knew I didn't hate her. I hated myself, What do you hate about yourself? I hate myself for not being able to keep her. The doctor remained silent for a long time. You couldn't keep her, he said, not because you lacked the ability. It's because she didn't leave herself a way out. She blocked all the paths, including the one leading to her. As I walked out of the hospital, the sunlight was beautiful. A girl was selling flowers by the roadside, sunflowers, huge and glaringly yellow. I bought one, holding it in my hand. Walking down the street, everyone stared at me. A man, holding a sunflower, walked down the street. Does she like sunflowers? I don't know. I've never asked her what kind of flowers she likes. What's her favorite color? What does she like to eat? What movies does she enjoy? What kind of music does she listen to? I don't know. After 2 years of marriage, I know nothing because I never asked. I walked over to a trash can, wanting to throw away the sunflower, but I didn't. I brought it home, stuck it in a mineral water bottle, and placed it on the table. The sunflower bloomed for 3 days and then wilted. Petals fell on the table, a patch of yellow. I didn't throw it away, let it stay there, dried up, curled, turning into brown fragments like her. Like the summer when she was 22, on the overpass, the sunlight hitting her face, dazzlingly bright. 1 June day, I visited her grave in the western suburbs of Beijing. There is a very quiet cemetery. The tombstone is black, engraved with her name, Xinjiao, years of birth and death, 1995-2019, 24 years old. Fresh flowers lay before the headstone. Someone had been to visit her. I stood before the grave for a long time. Then I crouched down and placed the copy of Introduction to Algorithms I was holding in front of the stone. The book was worn out, its pages yellowed and corners curled. Inside was a note, written by her, in an awkward, scrawling hand. Economics journals, arranged by year. Please do not misplace, Xinjiao, I said. Your note. The wind blew, lifting the corner of the note and then letting it fall again. I've had it for 6 years, from Tsinghua to the company, and from the company to here. You said you didn't know how to love someone, but what you didn't know. You taught me one thing. You taught me that some things can't be calculated by an algorithm, like why I'd sit on the 4th floor of the library all afternoon, without writing a single line of code, like why I'd turn and walk away when you said no, but still look back over my shoulder from a distance, like why I tore off that note you wrote, tucked it into a book, and carried it with me for 6 years. These algorithms can't figure that out. Big data can't calculate that. Artificial intelligence can't figure it out. Only I know. Only I know why. I stood up. Sunlight fell upon the gravestone, and her name seemed to glow. Xinjiao, you asked if I would remember you. I will, every single day. You asked if I ever loved you. Yes, from the very first day, but I lied. I said no, because I didn't know how to face you. You were too intense, too scorching, too much like fire. I was afraid that if I got close, I'd be burned to ashes. But you don't know. I'm willing to be burned to ashes. The wind stopped. The cemetery was quiet. Only the distant call of birds and the rustle of leaves could be heard. I reached out and touched the headstone. The stone was cold. I'm sorry, I said this time. It was my turn to apologize. Many years later, I grew old. My hair turned white, my back bent, and I needed a cane to walk. I moved to the western outskirts of Beijing, not far from her cemetery. Every morning, I walk for 20 minutes and sit for a while at her grave. I bring her flowers, sunflowers, every year. It's sunflowers, the florist asked me. Sir, you buy sunflowers every year. Who are they for? For my wife. Did your wife like sunflowers? I don't know, but I do, because sunflowers are yellow. That summer when she was 22, the sunlight fell on her face, and it was yellow. The shopkeeper didn't understand, but he still saves the best sunflowers for me every year. I sit before the headstone and talk to her. Joey, the weather is lovely today. Joey, the osmanthus in the neighborhood has bloomed. It smells wonderful. Joey, I dreamt of you again last night. You were standing on the overpass, the sunlight on your face. You said, Pei-Yushin, marry me. I said, yes. Your eyes lit up. That is the greatest regret of my life. Not regretting saying yes, regretting saying yes and not treating you well afterwards. If I could do it all over again. I paused. Try again. What would I do if I could do it again? I would help her pick up the scattered magazines on the 4th floor of the library. I would hand her the hot milk tea at the convenience store and say, don't overwork yourself. I would turn around, look into her eyes, and say, yes, from the very first day, every single day, it will last until death. But try again. Would she be different? Would she not cause a scene at the company? Would she not smash the trophy? Would she not sign the divorce papers? Would she not drive on the 5th Ring Road? I don't know, but I hope she won't. If it happens again, I hope you come to me, driving a Porsche, rolling down the window, looking up at me, say, Pei-Yushin, marry me. I wouldn't refuse, not even once. I'll come down from the overpass, open the car door, and get in, say yes, then I'll love you deeply. The wind blows, and the sunflower petals in front of the tombstone tremble lightly. I close my eyes, the sun falls on my face, a warm yellow just like that summer. So many years ago. She was 22, wearing a white dress, her hair cascading over her shoulders. The sun lit up her face, dazzlingly bright. She looked up at me. Pei-Yushin, marry me, I said. Okay. On the day I died, it snowed again in Beijing, just as heavy as many years ago. I lay in the hospital bed, with the heart monitor beeping. The nurse asked, "Sir, is there anything you'd like to tell us?" I thought for a moment. "Please buy a bouquet of sunflowers. Place them at my wife's grave." "What was your wife's name?" "Xinjiaoyi." "When did she?" "Many years ago. She was only 24 then." The nurse fell silent for a moment. "Don't worry, I'll take care of it for you." "Thank you." I closed my eyes. The cardiac monitor beeped. Once, slower and slower, slower and slower. One final, long tone. The green line flattened into a straight, unwavering horizontal, just like hers many years ago. I opened my eyes. I stood on a road. The road stretches endlessly, with no end in sight. The sides are shrouded in thick white fog. There is a figure at the end of the road wearing a white dress, hair cascading over her shoulders. She turned around. The sunlight hit her face, dazzlingly bright. She looked at me, her eyes reddened, but she didn't cry. "Pei-Yushin," she said, "what are you doing here?" I walked over and stood in front of her. "I came to find you. What do you want with me?" "There's something I forgot to tell you." "What is it?" "That question you asked me." "What question?" "You asked me if I ever loved you." She froze. "I lied," I said. "I did love you, from the very first day. Every single day, until my last breath." She looked at me, and tears began to fall. This time, she couldn't hold back. "You," her voice trembled, "why didn't you tell me sooner?" "Because I'm stupid." "You really are. You're such a dummy." The biggest dummy in the whole world." She cried and smiled, just like the most beautiful image in my memory. "Pei-Yushin," she said, "you know, I've been waiting for this sentence for such a long, long time." "I know. What about you?" "I'm sorry." She looked at me, took a deep breath, and reached out her hand. "Let's go." "Where to?" "I don't know. But this time, you can't leave again." I took her hand in mine. Her hand was small, with slender fingers and prominent knuckles, just like the day she died. But this time, it's warm. We are walking on the road. The white mist slowly disperses, and there is light in the distance. Not the harsh, surgical light. It's that warm light, like the sun on your face. "Pei-Yushin, do you promise to love me well in this life?" "Yes." "Really, really? Then you can't go back on your word." "I won't go back on my word." "Then you, Xinjiaoyi." Shut up." She smiled. I smiled too. We stepped into the light at the end of the road. There were sunflowers, a vast expanse, a blinding yellow. The sunlight fell upon it, just like that summer. So many years ago. She was 22, I was 24. We haven't gotten married yet. We haven't tortured each other yet. We haven't ended up one dead and one injured. We are just two people, standing on a footbridge, with a Porsche below. She looked up at me. "Pei-Yushin, marry me." I said, "Okay, extra story end." Story 2. When the commander asked who I wanted to marry, I blurted out, "Lu Haichuan." Shortly after our wedding, he fell in the line of duty during a mission. I resolutely left the military and returned to Lu Haichuan's hometown, devoting myself to caring for his aging parents and raising his younger siblings. Through hardship, a full 40 years have passed until I became the last lonely soul left in my hometown. On television, I watched newly promoted General Lu Haichuan embrace Zhao Yumei and say with deep emotion, "My military decorations bear my wife's equal share of credit." Behind him, his parents-in-law, younger sister-in-law, and brother-in-law applauded with tears in their eyes. In that moment, I finally realized, Lu Haichuan wasn't dead, yet I had died on my way to the military district to report Lu Haichuan. I was robbed and stabbed dozens of times by the assailant. As my eyes closed, a severely wounded man staggered toward me. When I opened my eyes again, the commander's booming voice sent a shiver down my spine. "Zhao Yuqin, you'll choose today whether you like it or not. That's an order." I had been reborn back to the day the commander forced me to choose a political marriage partner. 3 soldiers in olive green uniforms stood ramrod straight before me though. Motionless, their eyes kept darting sideways glances in my direction. Steadying myself, I spoke up, "Sir, I appreciate your kindness, but for now, I wish to devote myself entirely to medical research and serve our troops. Personal matters, not considering it for now. In my past life, Lu Haichuan braved a hail of bullets to rescue unconscious me from the battlefield. From that moment on, my heart belonged entirely to him. Little did I know, he had already given his whole heart to Zhao Yumei. Even faking his own death to escape me, the memory remains vivid, the searing pain as random blades pierced my body in those final moments, yet no physical agony could compare to the heart-wrenching betrayal from Lu Haichuan. Clenching my trembling body, I fought desperately to regain composure. Xiao Zhao, the entire military district knows your medical skills are exceptional, but your personal matters remain the organization's top priority. You must choose one of these three today. No. Returning to duty until you've made your choice, the commander slammed the table in fury. Lu Haichuan's brow twitched, as if holding back words. At that very moment, my past life flashed before my eyes like lightning, and his name escaped my lips, yet he remained unmoved, merely furrowing his brow before replying sternly, reporting to the commander, "I'm not considering personal matters at this time." Looking back now, it was never about not considering. He was resisting this arranged marriage just as much as I was. The office atmosphere instantly turned icy. After a brief pause, I looked up at the commander. "Very well, if you insist on my decision now, I'd ask these three gentlemen to step out temporarily." The commander barked with military efficiency. "About face, double time, out." The three soldiers moved in perfect unison, saluting crisply before pivoting and marching out of the office. Without hesitation, I stated bluntly, "I choose Xiao Shandong." The commander paused, his tone uncertain. "Are you sure?" Shandong's face. Of course I knew about the horrific scar from the explosion that marred the left side of Xiao Shandong's face. Among the three, he held the highest military rank and was the eldest. The scar, combined with his no-nonsense authoritarian demeanor, left him still single in his 40s. In his past life, he skipped even his own wedding to volunteer for border duty. The last time I saw him, I was lying in a pool of blood as he fought desperately against the assailant, covered in wounds before collapsing toward me. His usual stern expression was gone, replaced by sheer panic as he cried out, "Yuqin, wake up, stay with me." Swallowing the lump in my throat, I nodded resolutely. "Yes, I choose Xiao Shandong. In the name of the organization, I vow to be his lifelong partner." "Excellent, that's the decisive spirit of a true soldier." The senior officer slapped his thigh with a beaming smile. "I'll summon them immediately." I quickly interjected, "No, sir, I'd prefer to keep it confidential for now. Didn't you schedule a group wedding ceremony in 2 weeks? Wouldn't it be more perfect to announce the bride and groom right then and there with you as our witness?" "Haha, brilliant idea." The old commander rubbed his hands in delight. "When I usually push them to date or marry, they always make excuses. Now it's their turn to experience the agony of anticipation." He pounded his chest, swearing he'd keep it under wraps. The moment I stepped out, I saw Lu Haichuan gently comforting Zhao Yumei, who stood with bowed head and tear-streaked face. She made a hesitant move toward me, then froze mid-step like a startled fawn. Her pitiful demeanor made her look like the wrongfully switched true heiress who'd suffered hardships in the countryside. "Enough, Zhao Yuqin." Lu Haichuan's voice crackled with barely contained fury. "The mix-up during your childhood was the fault of the times, not Yumei's doing at all." He glared at me. "Can't you find it in your heart to accept her? Where's your ideological awareness?" As he spoke, he instinctively stepped in front of Zhao Yumei, shielding her. Tears welled up in Yumei's eyes as she pleaded in a trembling voice, Captain Lu, please don't blame my sister. I'm the one who stole her identity and lived comfortably in the city for over 20 years." She sobbed. "I wronged my sister. Please don't argue with her. She does care about you." In that instant, Lu Haichuan's gaze softened, overflowing with tenderness, defying their military surroundings. He suddenly grasped Yumei's arm and declared urgently, "Yumei, I'll go explain everything to the commander right now." "No, brother Lu." With tear-filled eyes, Zhao Yumei dissuaded him. "Offending the commander would ruin your career." Watching their deeply affectionate exchange, I felt as though a dagger had been plunged straight through my heart. The searing pain of the cold blade piercing my heart in those final moments washed over me like a tidal wave. Even as the agony threatened to suffocate me, I forced a weak smile and gasped, "I'd just settled the marriage arrangements with the commander. This wedding will happen, mark my words." Who knew numbness from pain could make a man smile while speaking words he didn't mean? "Battalion commander." He draped an arm around the expressionless Xiao Shandong, quipping, "Seems this show's got no roles for us too. Marvelous. That old theater trope of two women fighting over one man, hearing about it can't hold a candle to seeing it live." Xiao Shandong shot him an icy glare, prompting he to promptly withdraw his arm with practiced discretion. Zhao Yumei covered her face and sobbed uncontrollably. Lu Haichuan abruptly turned and stormed toward the office. "I'll make this clear to the commander," he declared, "even if it means demotion, deployment to the front lines, or dying in battle, I will be with the one I love." Indeed, in our past life, Lu Haichuan married me under orders. On our wedding night, he didn't so much as touched the hem of my dress, condemning me to 40 years of widowhood. Everyone praised me for my devotion, for tirelessly caring for the entire Liu household, a soldier who fulfilled her duty, and a military wife who set the standard in the end. It was just my pathetic one-sided fantasy, a joke I played on myself. As Lu Haichuan turned to leave, he deliberately shoved me hard, caught off guard. I lost my balance and crashed onto the ground, my head smashing against the steps as blood gushed out. A cacophony of noise erupted around me. I recognized Xiao Shengdong's deep voice, laced with panic and reproach. Have you lost your mind, Dr. Zhao just performed 3 consecutive surgeries. He's completely drained. It slipped my mind completely that I'd just pulled an all-nighter finishing 3 surgeries without even pausing for a sip of water. Who would have thought the cold-faced Yama Xiao knew every detail about me? I'd been a complete fool. When I opened my eyes again, the glaring red characters "Heal the wounded, rescue the dying" on the wall snapped me back to reality. This wasn't a dream. I'd truly traveled back to the 1970s. Assistantly let out a relieved sigh. Dr. Zhao, you're finally awake. You hit the back of your head and have a mild concussion. But fortunately it's nothing serious. Only then did I notice the bandage wrapped around my forehead, throbbing faintly with pain. You should have seen it. When Yama Xiao carried you in, we all thought he was the one who injured you. Shaoli grinned and explained. Then, where is he? Who dared ask more? He left in a huff after dropping you off. Shaoli stuck out her tongue. The infamous Grim Reaper Xiao of the military district truly lives up to his fearsome reputation. I spent the entire night lying in the hospital bed. At dawn, the long unheard yet familiar military bugle call roused me from sleep. The moment I stepped outside, I caught whispers in the air. Lu Haichuan desperately resisted last night when the commander ordered him to attend the military group wedding. He was punished with non-stop laps around the drill ground all night, and still hasn't stopped. Passing the training field, among all the drilling soldiers, Lu Haichuan stood out the most, drenched in sweat. He wore a crumpled white shirt and military trousers. Clenching his teeth, he kept running lap after lap. Despite heavy footsteps and labored breathing, he stubbornly refused to stop, just like in our past life when he solemnly vowed under the national flag to never leave my side. Now, with that same obstinacy, he'd rather endure physical punishment than marry me. Beside him, Zhao Yumei stood with tear-filled eyes, her face etched with anxiety. I suddenly laughed, a hollow, chilling laughter that left my heart frozen. Lu Haichuan silently protested the commander's orders through this very act. At last, I saw clearly how absurdly misplaced all that devotion from my past life had been. Swallowing the bitterness in my heart, I walked straight ahead without glancing sideways when an anxious Zhao Yumei suddenly grabbed my arm. Sister, Brother Lu has been running all night. He won't last much longer at this rate. Please beg the commander to rescind his orders. Before I could utter a word, Lu Haichuan rushed at me and pulled Zhao Yumei behind him in one swift motion. Don't you dare beg her. I'm not afraid, even if I have to run till my last breath. I'll make the commander rescind that order. I'll attend this military group wedding over my dead body. Yumei, you saved my life. Even if we can't be together in this lifetime, I'll find you first in the next. My chest felt split open by lightning, leaving me frozen in place. Zhao Yumei saved Lu Haichuan. When did that happen? Sister, long-buried memories suddenly came flooding back. In his past life, Lu Haichuan was carried into the hospital covered in blood during a mission. During surgery when he suffered massive hemorrhage, I was the first to donate blood for him. The mission resulted in heavy casualties. After donating blood, I immediately rushed to treat other wounded soldiers. By the time everything was over and I reached the ward too, Zhao Yumei practically shoved me out the door, insisting I go home and rest while she took full responsibility for the postoperative patients. So, Lu Haichuan actually believed she was the one who saved him. It suddenly struck me as darkly amusing. I wasn't the only blind fool here after all. Zhao Yumei, you can't even handle basic bandaging. Can't tell a vein from an artery. How exactly did you save Captain Lu with that scalpel of yours? I sneered. Lu Haichuan roared in anger. Zhao Yuqin, you're being completely unreasonable. You always think Yumei is stealing your place in the Zhao family. With how you constantly target her, you don't deserve to wear that uniform. Zhao Yumei clutched Lu Haichuan's sleeve helplessly. Her eyes brimming with gratitude, she trembled like a frightened fawn, fragile, timid, as if a breeze could topple her. On the day I was recognized by the Zhao family, she wore that same timid expression, hiding behind my birth parents while whispering through tears, I'm unworthy to be a Zhao. I'll return to the countryside and not disturb your reunion. On the training field, more and more soldiers paused their morning exercises, their gazes turning toward us. In an instant I suddenly felt exhausted, even the desire to expose Zhao Yumei's lies vanished. Silently, I turned and walked away. After just 2 steps, Lu Haichuan's panicked shout came from behind. Yume. Zhao Yume collapsed limply into his arms, her face as pale as paper, ignoring the surrounding whispers and risking being reported for improper conduct. Lu Haichuan scooped her up without hesitation and rushed toward the hospital. Zhao Yume fell ill with a high fever, and Lu Haichuan kept vigil by her bedside day and night without even changing his clothes. The incident of Company Commander Lu opposing the arranged marriage and protecting Zhao Yume spread like wildfire through the hospital and military district overnight. My colleagues began looking at me with a touch of pity in their eyes. To help Zhao Yume recover sooner, Lu Haichuan started borrowing money and ration coupons throughout the military unit, racking up countless social debts. Hearing these rumors, a bitter smile crept across my lips. In our past life together, even after marriage, he never gave me a single fabric coupon or grain ration. It wasn't until his sacrifice that I returned to my in-laws' home and handed over every penny of his wages to my mother-in-law. For decades, I single-handedly supported the entire Lu household with my military pension. To help Zhao Yume regain her strength, Lu Haichuan made a special trip to the hospital kitchen, urging the chef to prepare chicken and fish. When the chef refused, he rolled up his sleeves and cooked the meal himself. All my colleagues knew I had feelings for Lu Haichuan. When he was severely wounded, I personally donated blood for him, though exhausted after pulling an all-nighter performing surgeries, so much so I could barely stand. I still dragged myself to the commander's office when he summoned me for the arranged marriage. All I wanted was to become Comrade Lu's revolutionary partner, yet in his eyes and heart, there was only Zhao Yume. Even Shaoli, who defended me wholeheartedly, was publicly scolded by him as birds of the same feather. Shaoli stomped in fury. That Company Commander Lu is blind in both eyes and heart. How could he mistake his own lifesaver? Zhao Yume's just a cuckoo usurping the nest, a fraud who somehow became Commander Zhao's beloved daughter. I smiled bitterly. Was Lu Haichuan the only one blinded by prejudice? The baby mix-up between Zhao Yume and me became the talk of the entire military district. Back then, my birth mother marched south with the troops and was stationed in Zhao Yume's hometown. She went into labor on the same day as Zhao Yume's birth mother, and amidst the chaos of war, the two infants' swaddling clothes got switched. Zhao Yume's parents tragically perished, while I became a child passed from household to household for survival. By sheer coincidence, I was adopted by a barefoot doctor. Recognizing my medical talent, he imparted all his knowledge to me without reservation. Later, when the military recruited medics, I was selected based on merit. By chance, I was recognized by my birth mother's old comrade, which led to uncovering the truth about the switched-up birth incident. But Zhao Yume had lived with the Zhao family for over 20 years. How could they bear to let her go? Besides, there was no one left in her hometown anymore, so I simply had Zhao Yume start calling me sister, treating her like an adopted daughter. I even arranged for her to work as a nurse at the same hospital. Pushing open the hospital room door, I saw Lu Haichuan clumsily feeding Zhao Yume. In our past life, even when too busy to cook, he'd rather eat at the cafeteria than step into the kitchen, declaring with righteous conviction that a real man should stay away from the stove. His battlefield was at the front lines, where military honors were won. Turns out he could cook after all. It's just that the woman who could make him willingly tie on an apron was never me. Sister. Zhao Yume immediately turned her head away upon seeing me. Refusing more porridge, Lu Haichuan paused, frowning. You're this sick, how can you not eat anything? Then he softened his voice to coax her. Sweetheart, take one more sip and get your strength back. I'll explain everything to the commander. We won't attend that mass wedding, I promise. Lu Haichuan's solemn vow hung in the air. In a daze, I saw myself on our wedding night, brimming with joy as I leaned toward him, only to be met with his icy rebuke. Zhao Yuqin, mind your manners. So his tender side wasn't absent. Just never meant for me yet. You've never been willing to give it to me. Suddenly, this whole scene before me felt unbearably tiresome. As I turned to leave, I bumped into a colleague on rounds. He gave me a hesitant look before saying, Xiao Zhao, you're here too. Perfect timing. Last night, Company Commander Lu insisted we give Comrade Zhao Yume a full medical examination. The results are in, and the situation isn't promising. Her white blood cell count is critically low. She may need a bone marrow transplant, or it could be life-threatening. I froze. In my past life, Zhao Yume had lived perfectly fine. On TV, she was always by Lu Haichuan's side. Her cheeks were rosy and her eyes sparkled with vitality, showing no trace of illness whatsoever. Could my rebirth have altered the original course of events? Upon hearing this, Zhao Yume fainted on the spot. Lu Haichuan slammed the bowl violently onto the cabinet, sending scalding porridge splashing onto his hand and leaving an angry red burn. Paying no heed to the pain, he charged toward his colleagues and roared, Yume may be delicate, but there's no way her condition is this critical. You must have made a mistake in the examination." He paused as if struck by a thought, then whirled around to glare at me with venom in his eyes. "It had to be you. You're jealous of Yume. You fabricated this false report deliberately." I was momentarily stunned. "Lu Haichuan, you can slander me all you want, but I won't let you tarnish my professional integrity," I fired back furiously. "For her sake, you'd abandon your principles. Have you forgotten the oath you took when enlisting? Seems to me the real disgrace to this uniform isn't anyone else, it's you." Everyone calmed down. A colleague quickly stepped between us as tensions flared. "Captain Liu, these are just preliminary test results. We'll need further examinations to confirm the diagnosis." When news spread of Zhao Yume's critical condition, even my birth parents, who hadn't attended my wedding in their previous lives, rushed over from their military assignment without delay. I watched as they took shifts with Lu Haichuan at Yume's bedside, keeping vigil day and night. My heart felt like it was being crushed by an invisible hand, the pain so intense I could barely breathe. My heart skipped a beat. To them, whether they acknowledge me or not, whether I'm Zhao family's biological daughter, makes no difference, all because of their favoritism and indifference. In my past life, I chose without hesitation to marry Lu Haichuan, my savior. I once believed marrying him would not only repay my debt of gratitude but also give me a true home of my own. I thought even without blood ties, I'd gain a revolutionary partner who respected and loved me. How wrong I was. I abandoned my beloved military medical career and willingly returned to the countryside to care for his aging parents and children, managed household chores, raised my younger brother-in-law and sister-in-law, and put them through college. Those once deft hands that saved lives grew rough and clumsy, no longer steady enough to hold a scalpel. 40 years of devotion, only to be repaid with betrayal by my own family. Lu Haichuan came to me unprompted for the first time ever. He said there was something urgent to discuss and begged me to visit Zhao Yume's hospital room after work. Not wanting to intrude on their family reunion, I delegated Zhao Yume's care entirely to colleagues. Whenever Zhao's parents or Lu Haichuan were at the hospital, I made myself scarce, but they took turns attending to Zhao Yume these days. I managed to avoid crossing paths with them entirely. The entire hospital was abuzz with stories of Commander Zhao and his wife's devoted care for their adopted daughter, every bit as good as a biological daughter. They pulled every string to consult renowned specialists, had the hospital director retrieve years of military physical examination records for cross-checking, all to find blood and bone marrow matches for Zhao Yume. Lu Haichuan worked tirelessly, collecting folk remedies from comrades in arms and even asking rural grandmothers about white blood cell boosting home remedies. Enduring his commander's wrath, he swallowed his pride repeatedly, leveraging every personal connection to bring top-tier doctors from the capital. All these efforts became known through the incessant grumbling of loose-lipped Shaoli. 3. Every word pierced my ears. My heart, once stung by each syllable, now remains numb and unshaken. The moment I stepped into Zhao Yume's hospital room, I braced myself for their collective condemnation. To my utter shock, Lu Haichuan, who'd never bowed his head to me and often scolded me, dropped to his knees the moment the hospital door clicked shut. He knelt slowly before everyone's eyes. In that instant, my breath caught as if struck by a sledgehammer, the pain so visceral I could barely stand. Zhao Jiangwo rushed forward, reaching out to pull Lu Haichuan up with urgency in his voice. "Company Commander Liu, what on earth are you doing, eh? Man's pride is worth more than gold. You can't make such a sacrifice for Yume." Lu Haichuan remained stubbornly on his knees. "No, Commander Zhao, unless Dr. Zhao agrees, I won't get up." Song Fong stood by, sobbing uncontrollably. "They're both my flesh and blood. How can I choose between them?" With tears streaming down her face, she stumbled toward me and pleaded, "Yuqin, I've failed you as a mother, but after searching the entire military district, you're the only one with a matching blood type, the sole possible bone marrow donor." Hearing this, my entire body went cold as if plunged into an icy abyss, yet I unexpectedly let out a soft chuckle. So Commander Zhao and his wife rushed back from thousands of miles away, just to beg me for this favor. The first words they said when we met weren't asking how I'd been, whether life had been hard or exhausting all these years. They just asked if I could donate my bone marrow to Zhao Yume. Life really has a cruel sense of humor. After struggling through rebirth, exhausting every means to escape fate's quagmire, yet ultimately, this karmic debt remains inescapable. With red-rimmed eyes, Zhao Yume choked out, "Mom, Dad, Brother Liu, please stop pressuring Sister. All these years I've stayed with the Zhao family. I owed Sister that much from the start. I shouldn't have stolen my sister's birth parents from her, much less competed with her for Captain Liu's affection. All of this is my fault." She began coughing softly, her face growing increasingly pale. "I have just one request. When I'm gone, please, take my ashes back to our hometown. I don't want to stay here." and I certainly don't want to embarrass my sister." Hearing this, Song Fong immediately sat by the bed, embracing Zhao Yumei while gently patting her back. "No, Yumei, you're my daughter too. I've raised you since you were in swaddling clothes, feeding you spoon by spoon, for 20 whole years. Though I didn't give birth to you, I've loved you more than my own flesh and blood." "Your sister, she'll agree to it." "She definitely will." Zhao Yumei trembled with sobs as mother and daughter clung to each other weeping. The heavy thud of a military boot landed right by my feet. Zhao Jiangwo stood firm, his gaze icy. "Comrade Zhao Yuqin, though we never raised you, we're your birth parents, we brought you into this world, and now you won't even do your sister this small favor." His voice suddenly sharpened, like he was reprimanding an incompetent recruit. "Are you even fit to wear that uniform?" My smile vanished as my gaze swept over them, voice dripping with ice. "Fine, I'll donate marrow on 2 conditions." I deliberately paused for effect. "I have 2 demands. First, I'm changing my surname." I stared at Zhao Jiangwo and Song Fong, enunciating each word clearly. "Didn't you always say that the bond of nurture outweighs the bond of blood?" I grew up on handouts from neighbors, wearing threadbare cotton coats in winter, gnawing moldy cornbread in summer. If Dr. Xing from our village hadn't taken me in at 8, I'd have frozen or starved to death. He taught me to read, trained me in medicine, sent me to join the army, made me into a proper human being. Starting today, I'm taking my adoptive father Zhang's surname. Any objections? The hospital room fell deathly silent. Zhao Yumei's sobs choked off as Song Fong's lips trembled twice. Zhao Jiangwo's face turned ashen, like he'd been publicly slapped. I said calmly, "Don't rush, there's a second condition." My gaze slowly shifted to the kneeling man, pausing briefly. "I'd like Company Commander Liu to attend the military group wedding next week." With an inscrutable smile, I continued at a measured pace. "Soldiers value honor and duty. Just promise to participate, and I'll sign the donation papers immediately. The hospital director will schedule the surgery right away." I paused, locking eyes with Lu Haichuan. With some luck, Zhao Yumei could be discharged fully recovered by next week. She might even stand beneath the national flag and witness your oath-taking ceremony in person. Lu Haichuan sprang to his feet, eyes blazing with fury, and gritted out, "Deal, you have my word." Zhao Yumei suddenly threw herself off the bed, barefoot, stumbling toward him, clutching desperately at his sleeve, tears streaming down her face. "No, Company Commander Liu, you can't sacrifice your lifelong happiness for my sake." Song Fong panicked and rushed forward to steady her. "Yumei, you must take care of yourself. Put your shoes on, the floor's freezing." "Enough." Zhao Jiangwo's face darkened, his gaze turning sharp. "Fine, grown your wings now, have you? Too big for your boots. If you're so capable, change your name and disappear. Don't you dare come back, not ever." I smiled, a clean, decisive smile. A single tear silently escaped the corner of my eye. I blinked stubbornly, burying it deep within my eyes where no one could see. I nodded, my voice quiet yet firm. "From today onward, my name is Jing Yuqin. After the surgery, and once we've had our group wedding, from now on, we go our separate ways. Good riddance." Without waiting for any response, I turned around, straightened my back, and walked out of the ward without a second glance. In this lifetime, I repaid the Zhao family's debt of life by donating my marrow to Zhao Yumei. The Zhaos and I are quits now. No ties remain. Before the surgery, I made a special trip to the commander's office. The moment he saw me, it was like spotting a lifeline. He rushed over in a hurry and grabbed my arm. "Comrade Yuqin, you're finally here. You have no idea how that damned Lu Haichuan has been driving me up the wall these days. I'm going gray from stress. Kept pestering me day after day to pull strings and find experts, always dragging your name into it too." He lit a cigarette while talking, took a deep drag, as if trying to inhale all the pent-up frustration of these days straight into my lungs. "Thank God you didn't choose him back then. You've no idea how close I came to spilling the beans about you picking Shashondong. I've fought wars, taken bullets, endured torture in my lifetime, but nothing compares to the hell of these past few days." I smiled faintly, feeling a warmth rising behind my eyelids. "Sir, I've really put you in a difficult position this time, but I have one final request." He froze momentarily, the wrinkles on his face shifting slightly. "Go on." I took a deep breath, looked straight at him, and said word by word, "I'm about to undergo a bone marrow transplant with Comrade Zhao Yumei. I hope you can grant me one more request." For when I opened my eyes again, Xiao Li's face was right in front of me, etched with concern. "Thank goodness, Dr. Xing, you're finally awake. We've been worried sick. After all, you just donated so much blood to that heartless Lu Haichuan recently." Thankfully the director performed the surgery himself this time. It went smoothly, she spoke up indignantly on my behalf. The corner of my mouth twitched before I could respond. A burst of joyful sobbing came from the neighboring ward. It was the voices of Zhao Jiangwo, Song Feng, and Lu Haichuan. They were jubilantly fussing over Zhao Yumei, celebrating the successful surgery. Though just a wall away, they seemed to have completely forgotten me in the corner. But I don't care anymore. Xiaoli pursed her lips and muttered under her breath, anyone would think Zhao Yumei was Commander Zhao's real daughter. I chuckled, my voice hoarse as I said, Xiaoli, you forgot. I don't go by Zhao anymore. Xiaoli froze, then her eyes darted as if suddenly remembering something, leaning in with a serious expression. To be honest, Dr. Zheng, I've always thought you and Captain Lu were completely mismatched. He's too rigid and stubborn, and he still can't let go of Zhao Yumei in his heart. You'd be better off marrying that devil Xiao instead. Xiaoli kept rambling on. Both times you were injured, it was him who carried you back. My heart skipped a beat. Twice I bolted upright, ignoring my weakened state, and grabbed Xiaoli's arm. You said he saved me twice. When was the other time? My voice came out tight and trembling. Xiaoli startled, blinking rapidly. Dr. Zheng, you really don't know. I stared at her unblinkingly, my palms growing clammy with sweat. Some inexplicable intuition told me her next words might dredge up memories I'd deliberately buried. Oh no, Xiaoli suddenly clapped a hand over her mouth, face turning ashen. I promised, Demon Xiao would kill me if I talked. My heart skipped a beat as I instantly caught the flaw in her words. That frontline mission, right, when I was wounded and unconscious, was it Xiao Shandong who carried me back? Xiaoli's eyes widened as if she'd seen a ghost. You know, you were both severely injured, you were unconscious, and his face was torn open by shrapnel. The director himself stitched him up. I was giving you emergency treatment at the time. Nobody even noticed how badly he was hurt. Later, someone mixed up the names and claimed Captain Lu saved you. She paused, biting her lip before adding, actually, after Brigade Commander Xiao recovered, he came to me specifically, told me to keep it secret. He said, he couldn't care less about taking credit for this. He made me swear not to tell anyone. She drew a finger across her throat. I froze. After a long pause, a faint laugh escaped me, as if waking from a nightmare, or finally lifting the weight that had crushed my heart for years. My heart ached with bitterness, yet an inexplicable relief welled up inside. The bloodied figure from my past life flashed before my eyes again, straining every muscle to run toward me. Tears finally came streaming down. Xiao Shandong, I won't mistake you for anyone else in this lifetime. I raised my head with unwavering determination in my eyes. You're not getting away from me this time. Before the group wedding ceremony, the commander was frantic, searching everywhere for the missing Xiao Shandong to no avail. The other 9 newlywed couples were already in position. Among them were Lu Haichuan with his sullen expression and Zhao Yumei, her eyes swollen from crying like walnuts. Go, the commander barked at his orderly, drag him if you must, carry him if needed. Just get Xiao Shandong over here now. Report. The guard snapped a crisp salute. Brigade Commander Xiao says he's volunteered for frontier duty. The wedding has nothing to do with him, damn it all. The commander rolled up his sleeves and stormed off to drag the man back from the barracks. A dry chuckle sounded from behind. They're here. Turning around, battalion commander, he ushered in a scowling Xiao Shandong with an apologetic smile. Please don't be upset, sir. They've arrived now. Old Zhao's always so stubborn. Won't even join the fun on a happy occasion. Who knows, maybe we'll be the grooms at the next group wedding. Haha, the commander snorted coldly as the ceremony officially began. Beneath the crimson flag, he read out the names of the 9 newlywed couples one by one. The comrades erupted in cheers and applause, creating a jubilant atmosphere. When announcing the final couple, the commanding officer deliberately paused before proclaiming in a clear voice, the 10th couple, Jing Yuqin and Xiao Shandong. The entire room fell deathly silent, as if frozen in time for a second. Then came an earth-shattering uproar. Zhao Yumei's tear-streaked face stared blankly at us. Lu Haichuan's face went completely rigid, his whole body like a man struck by lightning. Every soldier stood frozen in shock. Battalion commander, his jaw dropped. That old fox pulled a surprise attack. Clad in crisp green military uniform with my cap perfectly aligned, I marched resolutely toward Xiao Shandong. He stood rigid, his face unreadable. The room fell deathly silent, every eye fixed upon us. I stopped before him, straightening my back with a faint smile playing at my lips. I, Jing Yuqin, solemnly vow to marry Xiao Shandong, to stay by his side through life and death, never to part. At last, I spoke aloud the wish I'd carried through 2 lifetimes. Xiao Shandong froze momentarily, his gaze flickering with unreadable emotions, hesitation. Perhaps suddenly, he deliberately turned his head, exposing his scar-riddled left cheek to me. 5. The sunlight made that hideous scar stand out vividly. He was testing me. But I didn't flinch. Instead, I reached out and gently traced the scar with my fingers. Nonsense. How could you be so foolish, ruining your face to save me, and keeping it from me all this time? My voice choked as I struggled to hold back emotions. I almost lost you. That phrase about past lives. I kept it buried in my heart. A faint crack appeared in Xiao Xiongdong's stern expression. He asked in a low voice, you know. His gaze then swept toward Xiaoli in the audience. Xiaoli covered her mouth in fright, shaking her head frantically as if to say, I definitely didn't spill the secret. Then he turned back, his hawk-like eyes locking onto me. A promise made is a promise kept, now and forever, through this life and all lifetimes to come, never to part. I snapped to attention and saluted him with solemn precision. He stood ramrod straight, the corners of his lips lifting slightly as he returned the salute. At that moment, thunderous applause erupted around us. The man who carried me through the line of fire, bloodied yet cradling me in his arms, now finally stands by my side. This time, I won't let him slip away. The wedding barely concluded before we could face our comrades' teasing. Xiao Xiongdong grabbed my hand and rushed us straight to the frontier. Earlier, I'd made my request in the commander's office. Wherever Xiao Xiongdong gets stationed, be at the ends of the earth, I'll follow him with the army. Meanwhile, the recovered Zhao Yumei married Lu Haichuan as she wished, beginning their newlywed life. The difference is, while I retreated from the hustle and bustle, her life grew ever more lively. My former mother-in-law heard her son married the adopted daughter of the military district commander, immediately gathered my sister-in-law and brother-in-law, and the whole family marched into the military compound in full force. Chaos erupted instantly. In my past life, I never revealed my true identity. The Lu Haichuan family only knew me as an ordinary military doctor. Ever since Lu Haichuan started scouring for folk remedies to treat Zhao Yumei, word got around he became the model husband overflowing with filial devotion, and Zhao Yumei's status was mysteriously elevated alongside him. Though she's adopted, they even donated their biological daughter's marrow to her. Might as well be her real child. Back in Liujia village, folks' tongues seemed to magically drop the word adopted whenever they spoke. Zhao Yumei instantly became the precious daughter of the military district commander's family, but military life was far from the glamorous existence Lu Haichuan's birth mother had imagined. Zhao Zhengwo and Song Feng, one the commander, the other the head of the Women's Federation, were already the busiest people in the military district, constantly on business trips with no time to spare for in-laws. Zhao Yumei, retired due to illness, was left alone at home to care for the entire household while recuperating. Though the bone marrow transplant succeeded, her constitution had always been frail. Living with the Lu family gradually eroded the deep affection she once shared with Lu Haichuan. Before long, her body began showing signs of rejection. Perhaps it was my marrow rejecting her, or perhaps the Lu family had worn away her last hope. When I was pregnant with twins, Xiao Xiongdong casually mentioned, Zhao Yumei's illness has relapsed. As he spoke, his hand rested on my swollen belly, his brow furrowed with concern. I instantly understood this iron-willed man was worrying whether I'd end up like Zhao Yumei, suffering complications from bone marrow donation. I gently wrapped my arms around his neck, pulling him down until his ear rested against my belly. Don't worry, I'm a doctor. We'll both get through this safely. He didn't speak, just held me tighter. Later, I delivered a healthy pair of twins, a boy and a girl, without complications. The man who never flinched even when bleeding on the battlefield wept. He leaned down and kissed my forehead. Yuqin, you've been through so much. After completing my postpartum confinement, I juggled childcare with mentoring resident doctors, living a hectic yet fulfilling life. One day, I suddenly heard the news of Zhao Yumei's passing. Rumor had it that my former sister-in-law, after joining the military district, was dead set on marrying a high-ranking official. She even schemed a marriage by seduction ploy, only to be reported on the spot by an upright officer. Lu Haichuan, overprotective of his sister, got into a fight that cost him a demotion. Before we could recover from that shock, my uncle had the audacity to steal military-grade steel, landing him a 3-year sentence. This time, not even Commander Zhao could shield him, and got implicated in the process. Song Feng's rage triggered a relapse of her chronic illness, forcing her into early retirement in utter humiliation. Overwhelmed by troubles, Lu Haichuan had no choice but to leave military service. The whole family slunk back to their hometown with Zhao Yumei in disgrace, only for her to die on the journey before reaching home. 20 years later, under the glare of media spotlights and before the assembled troops, Xiao Xiongdong was awarded the rank of general. Amidst the applause, he solemnly declared to all present, my military decorations bear equal credit to my wife Xing Yuqin. With tears in my eyes, I rose to applaud. Behind me stood our son and daughter, both carrying forward our legacy in their own ways. Our entire family was immersed in pride and joy. Unbeknownst to us, on the other side of the screen, a scavenging old man watched our figures with tearful eyes, hunched and ragged, with an unkempt beard. He'd aged beyond recognition. Lu Haichuan, once full of vigor and ambition, had now become a frail old man barely scraping by as a ragpicker. He was filled with regret after returning to his hometown, with no marketable skills and an involuntary military discharge. No job assignment came from the authorities. He could only scrape by doing odd jobs. To make ends meet by sheer chance, he ran into a wounded fellow veteran from his hometown on the street only to discover it was me, not Zhao Yumei, who'd donated blood to save him. Lu Haichuan's head spun as if struck by a heavy blow, leaving his ears ringing. When he came to his senses, he frantically called Zhao Jiangwo to ask for my contact information. On the other end of the line came Song Feng's voice, seething with rage. How dare you ask? We never should have kept Zhao Yumei in the first place. Your father's position keeps getting demoted. I lost my job. Our whole family is ruined because of you. We forced her to donate marrow back then. Now, even Yuqin's own grandsons refuse to acknowledge us. This is all your fault. Sobbing and cursing, Song Feng poured out her remorse and anguish over cutting ties with her own daughter, as if this were the only way to release the pain. But alas, it was all too late now. The end. Story 2. After my rebirth, I deliberately avoided every encounter with Jiang Yuqing. This time, when he said he wouldn't come home for the holiday, I packed my bags alone and returned to the village. After he rented the apartment next door for Lu Xiuting, I moved out immediately. When he decided to stay at the university as faculty, I enrolled at Northwestern Polytechnic instead. In my past life, even our own children urged me to divorce him when we grew old, also that these star-crossed lovers could lie together in death. A century later, one holding the admission letter in my hands, I nearly broke down in tears. Nobody knew I'd been reborn. At the last moment, I changed my application to Northwestern Polytechnical University. Even the teacher found it odd. Didn't they say your fiancé was staying for postgraduate studies? Will he really wait for you while you attend university so far away? Mentioning Jiang Yuqing brought to mind his tall, straight-backed figure from his younger days. Truth be told, everyone thinks I married above my station with Jiang Yuqing. He's ambitious, handsome, now a military academy officer. While I only qualified to stand by his side through our childhood betrothal arrangement, I chuckled and replied loudly, "Teacher, free love is all the rage these days. That arranged marriage between us is just feudalistic nonsense, utterly unacceptable." Perhaps surprised by my unexpected enlightenment, the teacher patted my shoulder with approving eyes. Leaving school, I followed the crowd toward home too. In my past life, I never even made it to college. With my wedding to Jiang Yuqing just days away and soon expecting our child, I ended up dropping out for good. Though Jiang Yuqing initially stayed at the university, he eventually enlisted in the military. After that, we were separated by vast distances as his career flourished. Wherever he was transferred, Lu Xiuting from the cultural troupe would relocate there with their daughter. Meanwhile, I remained confined to our little world, tending to the elderly and raising our child. I watched our child grow from babbling infancy to clinging to me with childish devotion, only to see them gradually drift apart from me with each passing year, step by step moving closer to Jiang Yuqing. Later, I didn't even learn about his marriage to Lu Xiuting's daughter until after the wedding was over, and I only found out through an old friend. In the photo, as he and his bride served tea, Jiang Yuqing and Lu Xiuting beside him were beaming with affection. In the years that followed, my son repeatedly urged me to get a divorce. He said, "Mom, Dad suffered his whole life. If it weren't for you, he would have been with my mother-in-law long ago. Mom, you two are completely mismatched. Why can't you just let go?" Even my daughter-in-law refuses to see me. But what can I do? I just can't accept this. I can't accept this. While I was tending to my bedridden in-laws day and night, he was out there fooling around. It kills me that when our son had a fever in the middle of the night, I rushed out barefoot and walked 5 kilometers to see a doctor, while he was off tutoring another man's wife and helping their daughter with homework. What stings the most is that I gave up everything for this family, only to end up with nothing. He said, "They say, everyone says so, we're not right for each other. Everyone blames me for not letting go, but I just won't." The toils of youth have carved deep furrows on my face, leaving me aged beyond my years. I'll drag them down with me. Even if it kills me, whether they end up together after I'm gone, that's no longer my concern. I haven't the strength left to care anymore. In the end, I died right after my son once again urged me to get a divorce. After talking at length and seeing my continued silence, he stormed off in anger. What he didn't know was that my heart attack struck before his door even closed. I called out to him, but he just slammed the door shut without looking back. At that moment, I was overwhelmed with regret. Why Did I have to spare him? Why did I throw away my entire life because of him? But thankfully, I got a second chance. Back to the days before marrying Jiang Yuqing. There's still time to change everything. After returning home, I hid the admission letter and started cooking. This 2-bedroom apartment belongs to Jiang Yuqing's work unit. During a break from cooking, I found my university registration date on next month's calendar in the living room and circled it with red ink. I gazed longingly at the circle date. Soon, very soon, I'll finally be free. Jiang Yuqing returned just as the meal was ready. As expected, Lu Xueting followed behind him with their child. Sis, sorry to bother you again, she said apologetically. Lu Xueting had fair skin and an oval face. The crimson trench coat she wore added an indescribable charm to her appearance. The girl, being a frequent visitor, cheered when she saw the prepared dishes and promptly went to serve rice from the pot. A bowl for her, a bowl for Jiang Yuqing, and a bowl for Lu Xueting. Everyone but none for me. When I came out of the kitchen, the three of them were already chatting and laughing around the table like one happy family. The moment the food touched their tongues, all three spouted out simultaneously, "Mom, it's way too salty." I leaned against the kitchen doorframe watching Jiang Yuqing hastily serve soup to the mother and daughter. Little did they know, the soup turned out even saltier in the end. Lu Xueting left in tears. Before leaving, she said to Jiang Yuqing, "It seems my sister-in-law doesn't welcome me. I won't come again." Jiang Yuqing escorted her to the door, returning with a furrowed brow. I ignored him and went straight to the kitchen to cook another dish. "Are you doing this on purpose?" Jiang Yuqing sounded somewhat puzzled. Then he began to explain. "Her husband asked me to look after them before he passed away. You're a great cook, and the kid loves your food." Seeing my silence, Jiang Yuqing shook his head as if conceding, "If it bothers you, I won't invite them over for meals anymore." 5. The next day after Jiang Yuqing left, I took out my bundle, preparing to return to the village in a couple of days. Though ours was an arranged childhood marriage, our families had formally exchanged betrothal gifts and birth charts. If we were to part ways, calling off the engagement required witnesses from the production brigade to avoid future disputes. While packing, I came across the quilt covers and pillowcases I'd secretly embroidered. Over the years, after some thought, I grabbed a bag and stuffed in the quilt cover, pillows, and newly made shoes, hauling everything to the pawnshop at the end of the street. The embroidery I'd worked on for years only fetched $30. It wasn't much, but with college expenses piling up for food and daily needs, this money would make a decent little nest egg back home. I marked today's date on the calendar with another thick X. 20 more days. In just 20 days, I'll leave this place behind and start my new life. Jiang Yuqing didn't return until late. The prepared meal remained untouched. I already ate at school. He offered the explanation casually, but the white tea fragrance clinging to him told me exactly who he'd dined with, Lu Xueting and her daughter. Clever, knowing dinner at home would irritate me, he chose to dine out with them before returning. I quietly cleared the dishes and retreated to my room. The room was crammed with my high school textbooks and exam papers, so many that we'd stored the overflow in the living room. I started by bundling up the books in my room with twine, saving the living room pile for when Jiang Yuqing left tomorrow. Since I'm leaving, it wouldn't be right to leave any trace of myself behind. While packing, I heard a knock at the door. I knew it was Jiang Yuqing. He'd always been exceedingly polite toward me, never crossing my threshold without explicit permission. "What is it?" Not wanting him to see me packing, I called out instead. After a pause, his voice came through the door. "I'm drafting our marriage application. Would the 9th of next month work for the ceremony?" The 9th day of next month marks the anniversary of my past life wedding with Jiang Yuqing. Glancing at the packed luggage, I said calmly, "Marriage is a serious matter. I'll go back tomorrow to discuss it first." After a prolonged silence outside, I finally heard retreating footsteps. I let out a relieved sigh and leaned against the headboard. With his current status, he could have filed the marriage application without even consulting his family. Having lost my parents young, his family took me in because of our childhood betrothal arrangement. So in everyone's eyes, I've long been considered part of the Jiang family. This marriage paperwork is just a formality. Besides, he's handsome, successful, and treats me well. Anyone with eyes can see my heart has long belonged to him. I do owe the Jiang family a debt, but no matter what, I've already spent my entire previous life repaying it. I owe them nothing now. In this lifetime, I'll walk my own path, a path without Jiang Yuqing. 7. The next morning, I woke to find Jiang Yuqing had already prepared breakfast, my favorite poached eggs and ate treasure porridge. In the 3 years I've been studying here, I've rarely seen him do this. I quietly took my seat. The only sound at the table was the occasional clink of spoons against bowls. "I'll take leave and go back with you." Jiang Yuqing suddenly looked up and said. I startled, shaking my head instinctively. "Let me drive you home. It's not safe for you to go alone." he said with a frown. I was about to make an excuse to refuse when a child came running through the door. Godfather. The little girl with 2 pink bows in her hair rushed straight into Jiang Yuqing's arms the moment she entered. Why did Nian Nian come? Where's your mom? Jiang Yuqing instinctively glanced toward the door. Peeking cautiously from his embrace, Nian Nian looked at me and said, Mom said Auntie doesn't like her, so she didn't dare come. I silently observed this daughter-in-law, my son's wife in a past life, who had never once shown her face to me after their marriage. Though only 3 years old, she already shows striking beauty. Even though she's 4 years older than my son, he worships the mother-daughter pair like deities. Jiang Yuqing naturally rushed off again with Nian Nian in tow, because she said Lu Xueting seemed unwell, without a single word of explanation. Jiang Yuqing dashed off with the child. I scoffed. Well, that solves it. No need to agonize over excuses for going back alone now. I took out a pen and stood before the calendar again, marking a bold X over today's one. 19 days left. I hurriedly gathered all the books from the house, then neatly stacked and bundled together all my notes, textbooks, and exam papers from the living room. After selling everything, I finally set off back to the village with just $13 in my pocket. Today's return was to call off my engagement with Jiang Yuqing. Though his parents had treated me decently, convincing them to break off the engagement wouldn't be too difficult. It's simply to inform them that Jiang Yuqing is about to skyrocket to success. As for him and me, it just wouldn't work anymore. 8. The country courtyard lay silent and oppressive. A bonfire burned in the courtyard, with mosquitoes swarming around its flickering flames. Beneath the earthen wall, I pressed tobacco leaves flat with a wooden board, meticulously slicing them into fine shreds with a cleaver. The uncle and aunt sat silently on the doorstep. After a long pause, they finally heaved a deep sigh and began earnestly advising me, Aru, even if his heart belongs to someone else, you two are betrothed. If he dares refuse this marriage, I'll make him regret it. Your parents, before they passed, they entrusted us with your care, but you, what am I to do with you? When I remained silent, they exchanged glances and sighed. Why must you always be so stubborn? Let's go to the brigade headquarters. I followed silently behind the two of them. The brigade issued us a certificate, and the betrothal tokens were exchanged back in the presence of several elderly members. I let out a quiet sigh as I helped the elderly couple walk back. Deep down, I knew they meant well. By all accounts, Jiang Yuqing is the golden boy everyone covets now. Even his own parents can't fathom why I'm so determined to call off the engagement. But I can't explain. I can't tell them about my past life's suffering, how my only son was actually born for Lu Xueting, then handed over to become part of their family. As for me, left utterly alone for a lifetime. 9. The engagement was successfully called off. The elderly couple said I'd be like a daughter to them from then on. I didn't mention my plans to study in the Northwest. Still, I stayed with them at home for half a month. The elderly couple walked me all the way to the village entrance. When I left, they kept repeating warmly that I should treat this place as home and must come back to visit. When I reached town to buy my ticket, I discovered they'd secretly tucked 200 yuan into my belongings. Tears began streaming down my face uncontrollably. The moment I got back, I marked 15 big red X's on the calendar. For more days, just 4 days left. I was heading to my room with luggage when I heard the door open. Jiang Yuqing just got off work, but surprisingly came back with Lu Xueting and Nian Nian. You're back. Jiang Yuqing looked at me with slight surprise. Lu Xueting gave me a reserved nod before unexpectedly turning to enter my apartment. I frowned as I watched her casually close my bedroom door, and my belongings were just haphazardly piled in the living room for handover. I turned my gaze toward Jiang Yuqing. Jiang Yuqing paused, as if suddenly remembering something. Well, Xueting's place had a leak during the heavy rain the other day, so she's just staying here temporarily for a couple days. Since you weren't around and there weren't many of your things, I let her use your room temporarily. So you just cleared out my stuff without my permission to make room for someone else. He paused, seeing I remained silent, then added, by the way, let's move your things to my place first. You'll stay with me temporarily, Jiang Yuqing said while opening his bedroom door. Wait, where are all the books from your room? Why is there so little stuff here? I pursed my lips as I watched him casually place a small bundle on the nightstand. Whatever, after all, this is his place. What he does has nothing to do with me. The college entrance exams are over. No point keeping these books, so I sold them, I explained flatly. Jiang Yuqing frowned. Even though the college entrance exams are over, you might need these books later. Why sell them now? I pressed my lips together and remained silent. Seeing my silence again, he finally said, by the way, what did Mom and Dad say? Jiang Yuqing took the bundle from my hands. I paused, had the date checked. It's inauspicious. Let's discuss this another time. This was pre-arranged with uncle and aunt, just buying time with this excuse. I'll come clean when I'm about to leave. Jiang Yuqing showed no suspicion, merely nodding faintly. Seems we'll need to pick another date, he murmured. With that, he walked out again. He said he'd cook dinner and told me to rest after just getting back. My eyes fell on the marriage application he'd already filled out, lying on the desk by the window. Only the date field remained blank. When I snapped out of my daze and looked up from the marriage certificate to help, I heard the faint murmurs of 3 people outside. The man's voice was deep, the woman's playful, and the child's adorable. I quietly sat back down. Truth be told, now that we've called off our engagement, it's inappropriate for us to keep living together, especially when we're sharing the same room with only 4 days left. Finding a decent rental place now is impossible. After some thought, I guess I'll just grab dinner and then crash on the living room floor later. 12. Been on the road all day, was really hoping to turn in early. Lu Xueting, brimming with energy, started practicing dance in the living room wearing a white dress, even using a mat for leg stretches, with Nian Nian constantly running in and out of Jiang Yuqing's room, even treating his bed like a trampoline. I had to excuse myself to fetch water, basin in hand. The moment I stepped outside, I took a deep breath. Hey Ru, back already? Weren't you visiting your in-laws? Aunt Hua from next door noticed me, grabbed her basin, and walked with me toward the well. Just went back for a few days, just returned today. Aunt Hua is our next door neighbor. Her husband works as an accountant at the mine, and they're doing quite well for themselves. Whenever she fries up some dumplings or snacks, she always brings a bowl over for me. We get along pretty well. Oh dear, I'm telling you, how could you? Aunt Hua seemed about to say something, but after glancing behind me, she pulled me forward a few steps. When we reached the well, she tapped my forehead in exasperation. What were you thinking? That good-for-nothing isn't worth your time, losing your husband and still parading around. Why are you bringing every stray under the sun into our home? TSK, you're so naive. Do you even realize what a catcher Jiang is? He's like honey to flies. And you're just inviting trouble right into your house. Have you lost your mind? After listening to Aunt Hua's endless nagging, I finally learned that Jiang Yuqing had actually told everyone this homecoming was my idea. He claimed I took pity on Lu Xueting, a poor widow with her child, and asked him to bring them home before we left for our hometown. I smirked mockingly. Jiang Yuqing's clearly using me as a human shield against public criticism, but since I'm leaving anyway, I didn't want to argue over trivial matters and just smiled without responding. Aunt Hua kept warning me on the way back. It's best to kick out such troublemakers sooner rather than later. Knowing I'm shy, she even told me to speak up if I ever needed help, though I could tell Aunt Hua partly wanted to watch the drama unfold. She's genuinely kind at heart. When I returned to the house, the living room was empty. I grabbed my clothes and headed to the bathroom, only to find it suddenly stocked with feminine products that weren't mine. My usual soap and towel had been shoved into the corner basin, right next to the trash bin. Their original spot was now occupied by 2 towels, one large, one small, along with shampoo bottles and hairbands. Sis-in-law, Nian Nian needs the toilet. Could you move? Someone deliberately bumped into me, making my head hit the doorframe over there. Lu Xueting was already holding Nian Nian to help her pee. After helping Nian Nian relieve herself, she noticed I was still by the door and murmured quietly, "Sister-in-law, would you mind stepping aside? You're blocking my way." Though her voice was soft, the smugness and contempt in her eyes were unmistakable. But unfortunately, I didn't budge. "Apologize," I said flatly. Lu Xueting froze, clearly not expecting me to show attitude, but she raised a good daughter. Nian Nian never liked me to begin with. Seeing the tension between me and her mom, she suddenly rushed over and shoved me hard, wailing, "You're mean, you're so mean, you're bullying my mom, you horrible person." Jiang Yuqing came rushing out of the house upon hearing Nian Nian's cries. "What's going on? What happened here?" Jiang Yuqing gathered the child into his arms with visible distress, while Lu Xueting's eyes welled up with tears. "It's my fault. Nian Nian needed to use the bathroom urgently, but my sister-in-law happened to be in there. I asked her to hurry up, and then..." Jiang Yuqing shot me a disapproving look. Though he said nothing in front of Lu Xueting, he cooed to Nian Nian, "Don't cry now. Godfather will talk to Auntie and make her apologize, okay?" Seeing the child was still fussing, he carried her back inside, promising to get her some candy. Lu Xueting gave me a knowing glance before following Jiang Yuqing into his room. As the child's heart-wrenching sobs gradually faded from the room, I mechanically finished showering and gathered my belongings into the wash basin. When I returned to the room, Lu Xueting had already left with the child. A colorful box of candies sat on the nightstand, clearly meant for a child 13. Jiang Yuqing paused his tidying when he saw me enter, Have a seat, he said. One look at his expression told me he wanted to lecture me about parenting, how to cherish children, not hold grudges against them, and probably demand an apology. I obliged and sat down, pulling out a tissue to dab at the wound on my forehead before handing it to him. A vivid red stain stood out sharply on the paper. Jiang Yuqing's words caught in his throat, his face turning ashen then pale with visible distress. I'll sleep in the living room tonight. I grabbed the bedding and pulled open the door. Wait, Jiang Yuqing suddenly grabbed my arm. We've got a perfectly good bed here. Why go outside? Thinking I was still upset about what happened earlier, he sighed and pulled me back. Nianyan's just a kid, and Shiweting didn't mean any harm. You're the adult here. Don't take it to heart. She's our guest. I know you don't like Shiweting, but she's had it rough. Don't be petty about this. Alright, I sneered. So you brought her back and claimed it was my idea. Jiang Yuqing's breath hitched, his lips parting soundlessly. I laughed. See, no matter how noble the words, the restless desires and filthy thoughts can't be self-deceived. Out of respect for our parents, I chose not to ruin his career, but that's all there is to it. That night, Jiang Yuqing slept on a makeshift bed in the living room. 15. The next morning I got up early, packed all my belongings, and planned to find a hotel before coming back for my luggage. When I opened the door, I saw Jiang Yuqing had already prepared breakfast. Nianyan snorted at the sight of me, pulling the breakfast closer to herself and Lu Shiweting. Jiang Yuqing came out with fried eggs, smiling at me. You're up, come over. I made some sunny side-ups. Noticing what was in front of Nianyan and Lu Shiweting, he chuckled awkwardly. Be a good girl, Nianyan, share some with Auntie. Okay. I ignored them all and walked straight out. The only hotel nearby was just a block away, where I booked the cheapest room available. 3 nights for $21. After paying the rent and deposit, I finally grabbed some steamed buns and fried dough sticks from a breakfast joint along the way. But when I got back, I found my packed belongings torn open, with items scattered everywhere. Nianyan had ripped off my admission letter and was hunched over the table, folding it into a paper airplane. My head buzzed with shock. What the hell are you doing? I snatched back the notice, startling Nianyan so badly she fell off the table. The child's blood-curdling scream brought Lu Shiweting rushing from the other room. What's wrong with you? Who said you could bully Nianyan? Lu Shiweting shoved me aside and scooped up the sobbing child. My hands trembled with rage as I carefully unfolded the notice. I bullied her. Have you seen what she's done? Who said you could touch my things? Get out. Lu Shiweting stood up holding the child, staring at me coldly. Ha. You're not even married to Jiang yet. This isn't your call to make. She carried the child to the doorway, paused briefly, then turned her head. Even if you do marry him, you'll never win against me. The door slammed shut with a loud bang. Lu Shiweting's hostility toward me always surfaces when Jiang Yuqing isn't around. 16. I used to struggle with insecurity and timidity. She's beautiful, successful, practically the star performer of the cultural troupe. I've always known we're in completely different leagues. Only by living through it again did I truly find peace. Why should I compare myself to her? In Jiang Yuqing's heart, Lu Shiweting will always come first. But is Jiang Yuqing really all there is to my life? I can still go to college and contribute to building our nation. I can step out into the world to broaden my horizons and gain knowledge. This muddy swamp here will only hold me back. Packed up all my belongings and marked another big cross on the calendar. I packed my bags and headed to the reserved hotel. Right after my rebirth, I did consider making a scene at Lu Shiweting's workplace. She ruined my past life. If I didn't confront her, that resentment would have eaten me alive. But what good would causing a scene actually do? As long as Jiang Yuqing is around, even if Lu Shiweting loses her job, he can still support her. It's really no skin off her nose. As long as I still care about the debt I owe my adoptive parents, as long as I don't want to completely ruin Jiang Yuqing, Lu Shiweting remains invincible. Then again, it's my own man who can't keep his thoughts clean. With all those army buddies Lu Shiweting's husband had, why is none of them stepping up to be Nianyan's godfather or looking after the mother-daughter pair? Well, figures. 17. After settling into the hotel, I quickly unpacked before taking out stationery to write Jiang Yuqing a letter. Forget his absenteeism after marriage. Forget his lifelong entanglement with Lu Shiweting. Just consider these 3 years I spent here for high school. He covered all my living expenses and even tutored me with my homework sometimes. For all he's done, I owe him a proper explanation about our relationship. In the letter, I mentioned calling off my engagement and getting accepted into a different university. From that day on, we went our separate ways and never saw each other again. I was halfway through writing the letter when a knock came at the door, assuming it was the hotel staff. I was stunned to find Jiang Yuqing standing there. When I opened it, he looked travel-worn, as if he'd been searching everywhere. Recognizing me, he exhaled deeply in relief. Finally found you. Thank God you're safe. Just thank God. I braced myself silently, expecting another round of accusations the moment he spoke. Come on, don't be mad, let's go home. Jian Yuqing squeezed in and started helping me pack my things. I swiftly covered the half-written letter with a book, but his gaze fell on a silver bracelet in the bundle. His expression changed as he picked it up. How did this bracelet end up with you? I froze. Annoyed at myself for not putting things away properly, Nian Nian was going through my things this afternoon. A bell fell off, so I fixed it. This bracelet was our childhood betrothal token. I took it back last time. Jian Yuqing's expression turned strange. What I mean is, why do you have this bracelet? Shouldn't it be with my mother? I was racking my brains for the right words when he suddenly chuckled. Got it. My mom asked you to bring this for me, didn't she? He placed the bracelet back in the bundle, saying, keep it here for now. We're getting married soon anyway. What's mine is yours. You hold on to everything. I let out a sigh of relief, but his hand remained pressed against the bundle. Jian Yuqing frowned. What? Still upset? Nian Nian was wrong. But she's just a kid, don't make a scene. Do you have any idea how worried Shuiting was when you ran off like that? She went out alone in the middle of the night looking for you. Even scraped her knees, and now she's still resting at home. What baffles me is that Nian Nian's always been so well behaved, yet you two clash every time you're back. Jian Yuqing seemed about to say more, but when he met my indifferent gaze, his lips moved wordlessly before trailing off. I suddenly laughed. You know what? This afternoon your daughter was rummaging through my bag, and I told her to get lost, but your precious Shuiting said I had no right to tell her to leave. She even said even if I married you, I still couldn't compete with her. I watched the man's expression darken inch by inch. My daughter, that's my goddaughter. I ignored him and continued. You've been using the pretense of looking after your late brother's wife to get close to her. But if your brother knew this was how you took care of his widow, do you think he could rest peacefully in his grave? My mocking laugh and the brutal truth shattered Jian Yuqing's self-delusion. His face paled dramatically, his body swaying slightly. As if struck, after a long silence, he finally managed to say with difficulty, since you refuse to come back, you might as well stay here and reflect on your actions properly. I'll come pick you up in a few days. Jian Yuqing turned and fled in disarray, shouting over his shoulder, I never meant to betray you. I'll submit our marriage application as soon as I get back. Listening to the stumbling footsteps fade into the distance, I closed the door with an expressionless face. How ridiculous. As if in his eyes, his willingness to file marriage papers and marry me was some grand benevolence, like I should be groveling with gratitude. The next day, I went to collect my train ticket from the teacher, worried I wouldn't get a seat. My teacher pulled some strings to secure my ticket early and even asked acquaintances in the Northwest to keep an eye out for me. I had lunch with my teacher, then picked up some local specialties in the afternoon to bring to my college roommates on the final night. I turned in early. I thought I'd spend the night sleepless, reluctant to leave, with my mind racing. Surprisingly, I fell asleep almost as soon as my head hit the pillow. Early the next morning, I handed my letter to the hotel front desk, checked out, and dragged my luggage to the train station. The 2-day train ride was so bumpy that I could only doze off intermittently. When I finally arrived at school after the turbulent journey, I breathed a sigh of relief. After completing the enrollment procedures, I immediately plunged into intensive coursework. In my previous life, I never got the chance to step into university. This time, I treasure the opportunity immensely. Apart from eating and sleeping, I spent every waking moment either in class or at the library. When I received Jian Yuqing's first letter, 3 months had already passed since the semester began. I wasn't surprised he knew my whereabouts. A month ago, I'd already received a letter from my teacher saying Jian Yuqing had visited him and learned I'd gone northwest. So when Jian Yuqing's letter arrived, it came as no surprise. His letter stated he refused to cancel our engagement. He wrote that in his heart, I've always been his wife. He insisted again that nothing was going on between him and Lu Shuiting, knowing full well I couldn't stand her. He'd already made her leave and promised we'd never see her again. Then he added that he'd be waiting for me to come back. Along with the letter came 100 yuan. I tucked the letter away without replying. The money remained untouched. Of course, the university workload was intense, and I initially considered finding a part-time job. Despite ranking at the top of my class and receiving scholarships, the monthly living expenses still weighed heavily on me. When my teacher learned of my plans, they scolded me but then started sending me 50 yuan each month. The letter specifically stated that this money was lent to me. At the end, it even playfully added, a rare touch. Don't worry, your master's wife knows all about it and fully supports this. For some reason, tears suddenly welled up in my eyes. No matter how tough life got in my past, through all the hysterics, hatred, and regrets, I never once shed a tear. This lifetime, of course, is no exception, but at this moment, My tears burst forth like a broken dam, and I cried my heart out. Even my dorm mates were startled and came over to comfort me. After the crying, I started working even harder. Jiang Yuqing's letters arrived like clockwork every month, each accompanied by 100 yuan during the final month of the semester. He insisted I'd never want to return, yet he asked me to wait, promised he'd come celebrate the new year with me. Jiang Yuqing never came. The letters suddenly stopped coming. It wasn't until my teacher told me that I learned Jiang Yuqing and Lu Xueting had gotten married in the teacher's letter, it said. This caused quite a stir. I heard he'd already applied for a transfer to your department, but someone reported him for having inappropriate relationships with women, since you'd already left and there were no victims to testify. The whole thing got swept under the rug. The woman lost her job over it, so he had no choice but to marry her. Finally, the teacher said with profound sincerity, at this moment, I feel incredibly fortunate for you. You are blessed. I know I've been fortunate my entire life. By sheer luck, I was reborn right before submitting my college applications. Fortunately escaped the quagmire of past lives. Jiang Yuqing's letter arrived again after a year. The first thing he said was I'm sorry. Then he revealed that Lu Xueting herself had been the whistleblower all along. She knew Jiang Yuqing had submitted a transfer request. Lu Xueting pleaded with him to stay, but he refused, so Lu Xueting took a desperate gamble. Her gamble paid off. I married Jiang Yuqing. Jiang Yuqing later told me he finally understood what those marked dates on our living room calendar meant. He'd always thought they were days I was counting down to our wedding. I just smiled and burned all the letters. As for the money Jiang Yuqing sent me, I forwarded every cent to my teacher for delivery. 2 years later, even before graduation, I joined the construction of our nation's Project 201. I pledged my remaining years to the motherland. Without asking when I may return, I wrote to Aru, but she never wrote back. Jiang Yuqing. Side story, when I heard Aru's words at the hotel that day, I was utterly shocked and furious. I locked myself away at home for 3 whole days afterward. I realized then that I might have been truly mistaken. My mistake was letting my heart wander while waiting for Aru to grow up. Every time I helped Xueting, my heart began to wander. Xueting's thoughtfulness, Nian Nian's cheerful charm. I lost sight of the fact that I already had a fiancé, committing acts that now fill me with shame. After 3 days of reflection, I know with absolute clarity, I can't live without Aru. I found the inn, but it was too late. She was gone, left me behind. I asked around, but no one knew where she'd gone. It wasn't until I spoke with her teacher that I discovered she'd gone to the remote northwest. My world came crashing down. Then I remembered that silver bracelet that shouldn't have been in her belongings. I rushed home immediately, but my family told me she'd already called off the engagement. I stumbled back to the apartment we'd shared for 3 years, completely broken. That night, I drank myself into a stupor. To my shock, Xueting slipped in unnoticed. When she saw my transfer request, she threw a tantrum right away. Then she lost her job. Her family came to make a scene, and I had no choice but to marry her. But gradually, all my friends started distancing themselves from me. It's like she vanished from my world the moment she left this place. After I married Lu Xueting, she became overly possessive and would make scenes over nothing. What's worse, my parents never took to her. They kept comparing her to Aru. Lu Xueting seemed to change overnight, becoming hysterical. She turned neurotic. There were several transfer opportunities later, but she sabotaged every single one each time. She'd accuse me of trying to ditch her. If I could just shake her off, I'd go find my ex-fiancé. Every time, I could only laugh bitterly to myself these days. Even seeing me probably makes Aru sick to her stomach. The person she's guarding so jealously means absolutely nothing to Aru. Later on, I watched my friends climb the career ladder while I remained stuck in the same place. Gradually, she started calling me a good-for-nothing. She wanted another child, but just couldn't conceive, so in the end, Nian Nian remained our only child. Later, Nian Nian grew up, got married and had children, but she didn't marry into a good family. The man was abusive, unfaithful, and a compulsive gambler. Lu Xueting cried daily over her daughter's situation, but when our daughter wanted a divorce, she stubbornly refused to allow it. Every time they argued, she'd take it out on me, saying I was useless and questioning why she ever married me. Nian Nian blames me too, saying it's all because I don't have a high enough position to back her up. I had no words to defend myself. Later, Nian Nian couldn't get the divorce and was dragged back after trying to escape, only to be brutally beaten by her husband.